Can't let her live. 10. Patting that hand to remove the dust from her hand, Bai Yin watches from behind as her two shifas carried off the assassin and pill in order to conduct their own business. I should go look for Xiaochen too. It's getting late, and the little rascal must be getting into so much trouble right now. She murmurs this to herself, afraid what might become of the city if she doesn't retrieve her son soon. The whole household, currently standing in front of a full-length mirror, was Ho Chui Chui, the girls currently measuring up her newfound figure with satisfaction and glee. Suddenly, a movement near the doorway had caught the girl's attention, causing her to swing herself around to peer over in the direction. To her surprise, it was a small little fox that instantly won her heart over under the glistening sun, though she could easily recognize it as being the very same one who harmed herself at the restaurant. No female could possibly endure this level of cuddliness. Fine, I won't blame you since you are so cute. Now you just need to be my pet. A little fox. I didn't even go looking for you, and now you're knocking at my door on your own? Smiling right up to her eyes, Ho Chui Chui's existence exuded an aura of deviousness as she got closer to the little guy. Be happy. I am a kind-hearted person. As long as you become my pet, then I can ignore the fact that you hurt me. Just bringing such a cute fox out as a pet is enough to make others jealous of me. But just as the girl's hand was about to touch the fox's face, that's when Bai Xiaochen did the unexpected and bit her fingers hard. Screaming out in pain, the former chubby girl hurries to retract that hand, infuriated in her voice. Damn fox, how dare you ignore my goodwill? I'm telling you now, I am the benefactor of that Huan Yin, so you better not go against me. In order to not let Ho Chui Chui be exposed, Mu Long had more than once instilled the idea into her brain that she's the one who jumped into the river. Over time, the lie had become a fact in this delusionary girl's head. To be clear, though Huan Yin herself wasn't capable of cultivating due to her body at birth, it still doesn't change the fact that the Mirage household was one of the 4 major families within the Misty Fairy House. And to be able to reach such height meant they aren't to be trifled with, even for the leading family. For Bai Xiaochen, who witnessed everything on the boat that day, he naturally showed a dubious face over the claim. Huan Yin, isn't she the woman who Mother saved that day in the river? But isn't the benefactor supposed to be Mother? How did it become this person here instead? Not waiting for the little fox to understand, Ho Chui Chui has already taken a bag from the side in order to sack the kid. But that's not going to work against an agile and flexible fox, would it? Swinging to the side in a smooth dodging motion, Bai Xiaochen retaliates with a razor-sharp slash with his claw, leaving behind 5 bloody marks in the process. Can't let her live. 11. Ho Chui Chui once again exclaims, filled with burning rage in those eyes this time. She makes a pounce for the tiny critter in hopes of catching it. Sadly, she couldn't even catch a strand of hair, let alone the sly moving fox. In hindsight, Bai Xiaochen was able to nimbly dodge the girl with ease as they ran around the room. For this reason, the once tidy place was now a mess due to Ho Chui Chui bumping into everything. The chairs were scattered, the table knocked, and the vases shattered. Because of the loud commotion coming from this wing, it didn't take long for the rest of the Ho family members to come running in order to investigate. Knowing this wouldn't be good if there's more people around, Bai Xiaochen figured it's time he made himself scarce and bolted for the outside. In the crowded streets of the market, a little fox was scurrying off at top speed for the Zhong Manor's direction. I've been away for over half an hour already. Mother must be really worried. Just as the image of Bai Yan's grumpy face was all that's in the kid's head, a pair of feet had suddenly come in front of him and blocked his path. Naturally, the boy was annoyed by the interruption and looked up questioningly. In that instant, his eyes instantly turned into a raging red after seeing the purplish robe and silvery hair. Meanwhile, on the receiving end, the majestic man only showed surprise and joy before it devolved into a stinging pain over the fox's appearance. This was his son who's been harmed, and his wife was nowhere to be seen. Where's your mother? The man's voice sounded hoarse and dry as he asked. No one knows but himself how hard it was without his family. If not for the faith inside that it would be all right, Di Tsong might have given up already. Issue was, State teacher only managed to predict Bai Yan's approximate whereabout of being at the Misty Fairy house. As to the exact location, he hasn't had a clue. Take me to her. Full of bitter sadness inside, the once proud demon lord was now a pleading father, who only wants his family back. This of course didn't go unnoticed by the little fox, and nearly won him over even. However, the pain caused by the fraud and the lies were too deep. Eventually the boy dismisses his own wavering self. I can't go soft, I can't betray mother, and I can't let anyone bring harm to mother again. Xiaochen, the man picks the boy up before it's too late. I can give you an explanation for what happened before. Despite the desperateness in his voice, the toddler didn't want to hear any of it. He kept his ears covered with those paws to show he had no intent of listening. I won't listen. I won't listen. This baddie hurt mother so much, I will never forgive him. Seeing his old man wasn't going to let him go at this rate, Bai Xiaochen did what any child would do, and that was to bite down harshly at those hands. In the next second blood began to flow out of the palm from the bite wounds. Ditsong didn't relent, and simply made a frown in light of this. He knows this was his only chance. If he misses this opportunity to right things, then it's likely his wife and son would never show themselves again. Fortunately his perseverance seems to have worked, because the kid eventually relented. Why did baddie father not stop me? Considering his strength, he could easily stop me from making him bleed, so why? Impersonate 1. Where's your mother? The man asks again with a deeper sound signature. Against that constant pleading, the baby fox unconsciously softens up once more. However, whenever he does so, the image of Bai Yan's bloodied-up body from that day instantly re-emerges and strengthens his resolve. Huffing a snort, he deliberately swings his head to the side in order to ignore the pain from the man's eye. Xiaochen, the man from that day wasn't me. Really? Suspiciously sneaking a peek. The baby fox didn't know whether to believe that explanation or not. What if he's here to pursue mother in order to finish the job? Flickering with light over that possibility, those sneaky blue eyes grew cunning like he's just thought up a plan. And since Ditsong only had the thought of reuniting with his wife again, the demon lord naturally couldn't catch onto the boy's inner thought. Under those pleading eyes of this father, Bai Xiaochen eventually nodded. You agree? Trembling in his hand, the man had to take a good moment to take in this reality, for it's too much for his heart. Unfortunately for him though, instead of heading for the Zhong Manor's location like they should, the baby fox went in the complete opposite way, and intends to lead the man astray. Ditsong could doubt anyone, but not his son. As such, he followed with a sense of ecstasy at the eventual reunion of his wife. Zhong Manor. Bai Yan had searched every nook and cranny she could think of already. Whether it be the back mountain or the nearby city streets, she couldn't locate her son at all. After a long while of musing, she figured there's only one other location she didn't look yet, and that was the Dragon River. Xiaochen must have went to look for Tsing Yi at the bottom of the river. No matter, I will go have a look over there regardless. Out of her own urgency, the woman didn't leave any word behind for her two shifus, and headed directly for the river. To her surprise, there were a lot, and by a lot she meant a ton of people scouring the river bank at the moment when she arrives. What's going on here? Why is there so many people around? Furrowing that tightly knotted brow, she asks one of the bystanders. You don't know yet? The one being asked was a teenager who appeared quite taken aback by the strange question. Aren't you also a member of our Misty Fairy house? How could you not know when something this big happened? Bai Yan's face showed a look of embarrassment. I haven't been out for a long time, so I'm kind of out of the loop. My two shifus only told me to keep away from the Dragon River. Never did they mention about anything else like the place being a huge attraction. What if they discovered Tsing Yi's location? Just as Bai Yan's contemplating the risks of this continuing, the youth speaks up again and kept going. It is said that a few days ago there appeared a genius young lady during the youth convention. Not only did this person cure the Mirage family's Huan Yin of her physical condition, she also saved the girl and another from the dragons that attacked the boat. For that reason, everyone's now out and about in search of that missing lady. Making a face of disbelief and shock. Did my actions that day raise such a huge sensation? And I didn't know until now? We found her. Suddenly, a wave of joy interrupts her train of thought, and instantly attracted the attention of all from the front. Looking over, she herself could see two young maids currently supporting a woman out of the Dragon River. Just like how she was that day, this individual had on a veil to cover up the better part of the blood-smeared face, while the dress grew sticky to the body as a result of the water. What's going on here? Didn't I instruct Goldie and Silvery to not drag anyone into the water again? Why are there still people falling into the Dragon River? She frowns and became rather perplexed by the scene. Impersonate too. It's just that. When Bai Yen saw the woman's figure, her initial reaction was a stupefied expression of someone seeing a ghost. Sure, she couldn't see the woman's face from her angle, but the fact that the figure looked so similar to her own was uncanny. Take the clothes for example. It's exactly as the one she wore that day on the boat. Just when Bai Yen was rather puzzled, and didn't know what to make of this, another voice had cut in, and pulled her attention away. Move aside please, everyone move aside please. Miss Mu Lung is coming through. Mu Lung? The name immediately caused her face to go heavy. To tell the truth, even if the girl did somewhat offend herself on the boat that day, Bai Yen didn't really take it to heart. After all, it's just some random person whom she met on a single outing. But Mu Lung's the student of Elder Muzhen. That makes her an enemy. Yes, this woman is the person who saved Huan Yin that day. I remember her. Mu Lung mildly says this, after coming up to the riverbank. Phew. The people were all heaving a puff of relief after hearing this, because the rescue efforts could finally come to an end. Though it did strike them as odd that a woman could survive for several days on end inside the water, it doesn't change the fact that the person has been found. Bai Yen on the other hand didn't feel so relaxed like the rest of them though. Her instincts are directing her to a certain theory. If all of this was only to save the woman that just fell into the water, then it could still be coincidence. But Mu Lung's involvement? That's just too ridiculous. This was clearly a ploy for something else. Squinting her eyes, a frosty gleam flashes within Bai Yan's iris. Yuupuff, the rescued woman coughs twice as she threw up the water in her lungs, showing confusion as she opened her eyes. This is where am I? Am I still alive? You needn't be afraid. You are safe now. Mu Lung's voice sounded incredibly soft and warm. Now first tell us what happened under the river. The woman's body shook like she's still frightened by the experience, before going over the previously discussed story. I was dragged away by those two dragons and locked inside a palace. They didn't feed me for days, and I was starving throughout the imprisonment. In the end I had to use a lot of energy, before eventually finding an opening to escape from the palace. I didn't expect the location to be under the river, so I nearly drowned as soon as I got out. Understanding this was enough in their fake story, Mu Lung hurries to signal her men to take the person away. This lady is obviously very shook still from the experience. Take her back to the Mu Manor, and have some of my maids cater to her needs. Having said that, the high-standing lady then straightens up to face the focused crowd. And I need to go report this to the chief. Yes, Miss Mu Lung. The guard respectfully complied and retreated away. From beginning to end, Bai Yen was watching this from behind the crowd, and became rather amused by the blatant lie. When trouble befalls you from heaven, then there is still hope of avoidance. But when you ask for it, then there is no hope of escape. Since Mu Lung is courting her own death, then why should I stop her? Since entering the Mu Manor after being led here, Ho Chui Chui hadn't stopped exploring for even a minute. She's too excited inside knowing this might all be within her grasp soon. Especially that back mountain which stretches for miles on end. Miss Ho. A maid hurriedly comes to report. Miss Huan Yin is coming. This immediately warranted a hopeful look from the excited woman. Hurry and let her in. Yes, Miss Ho. In no time at all, the maid had returned from the front with another person in tow. Impersonate 3. Miss Huan Yin. Ho Chui Chui coughs awkwardly to clear her throat after seeing how quick the girl ran over. Saving you is something I should duly do. There's no need for you to bow to me. In the ignorant wench's mind, all those amazing people should have some level of air around their themselves to differentiate from the common folks. And since she herself had become Huan Yin's savior, She mustn't lose out, and decides to act smart to put on the act. Unfortunately for the once chubby fool, that's a total miss on her end. Nearly coming to a stumbling halt, the hopeful guest known as Huan Yin now shows a wary look. When did I bow to her? How come I didn't know? Miss Ho, what's wrong with your voice? Why do I feel like your voice has changed? She asks, pursing her lip in the process. Thankfully Ho Chui Chui herself still had a veil on right now. Otherwise the expression she made in that instant would have been a big giveaway. Oh, I'm just a little uncomfortable in the throat. It's normal for someone's voice to change after going through what I did. It will heal in due time. Nodding her head in understanding, Huan Yin immediately asked again with another idea. I have here some medicine to help heal your weakened body. Would you like some? There's no need. Ho Chui Chui hurries to shake her head. With my ability and strength, a little injury like this is nothing. So Miss Huan Yin, is there anything you need in coming to see me? Now the wariness was quickly growing inside her. Huan Yin may not know why, but something iffy was up, and she couldn't quite figure out why. Miss Ho, where is that fox of yours? Forcing a smile, she decides to go in a roundabout way to get some more information. Fox? Staring wide-eyed, Ho Chui Chui became puzzled. That was enough for the already suspicious girl to reaffirm there's something really wrong here. Huan Yin and Bai Yin may not be actual friends, but that doesn't mean she's blind. During the ride on the dragon boat, the girl could see how important that silvery fox was to the veiled female. You know, the silvery fox you were keeping by your arm's length at all times during the incident? Silvery fox? Getting anxious as well now knowing she's screwed up, the fake hurries to make up a lie using a soft tone. My poor fox was eaten by the dragons that day. So that's why. Not going to start prying. Huan Yin knew she's overstepped her boundaries after seeing the fake sorrow in the other side's face. Taking a step back. Miss Ho, I came today in order to thank you for saving me. In addition, I'm also here to formally invite you to my home for a visit after your injuries are healed. My father would like to personally thank you for the deed. It's getting late, and I should stop disturbing your rest. The first instinct Ho Chui Chui had there after hearing this was to reach out to stop this. Unfortunately for this deceiving wench, Huan Yin's legs were much faster than those fingers. Sighing over the departing figure. That Huan Yin is too kind to me. She's obviously only leaving so fast in order to let me rest. No matter. I will grace her with my presence once I'm in good health. Quit worrying, you fool. The impersonation worked. Otherwise she wouldn't have invited yourself to her home just now. She kept murmuring this to herself, as if it's some kind of spell. Back outside the Mu Manor's doorway, Huan Yin was just about to board her carriage when the maid she brought along spoke up. Miss, weren't you really excited to meet Miss Ho? Why did you back there? Halting in her step over that question, she turns and stared meaningfully into the general direction of the inside. This person, something's not quite right about her. What? The maid exclaims. I don't know why, but I just feel there's something very wrong about her. Though my interaction with the woman that day is short and brief, but the air and temperament this Ho Chui Chui gave me is completely different. Biting her lip, Huan Yin knew she couldn't let this slide. We're going back first. I need to let my father know about this so he can investigate the matter further. Impersonate for. After having the whole rescue effort coming to a close, Bai Yin didn't leave like the rest, and spent a good amount of time searching the river bank for her son's whereabouts to no avail. Frowning now, can it be something happened to him? It's then a slight rustling sound had caught her attention. From her angle, Bai Yin could see there's a heavily injured fatty that's leaning against the main trunk of a tree up ahead. The man was literally covered in blood as a result of the sword embedded into his chest, indicating how severe that wound was. She wanted to go get a closer look, but when she took a step forward, the noise from her footsteps had obviously scared the individual and roused him to make a run for it. Not going to let this slide, Bai Yin does a flash step and blocked the fatty's path. It looks like your body is quite special if you can still run in your current state. Oh great lady, please let me go, just pretend I'm a fart and toss me away. Kneeling as his first reaction, the fatty gets down on the floor and begs with all his might. Explain to me then, why did you run as soon as you saw me? And are you pleading for your life? Crossing her arms around the chest, Bai Yin smirks with confidence like she's not afraid. Let him know she's still unaware of what's going on. I've told Mu Lung's people about you buying the ticket from me, and also gave them a portrait of your face. I was scared. That's why I did that when they threatened me. The fatty merchant thought this was a form of payback for outing her. Hence the reason why he would be so frightened after seeing Bai Yin blocking his path. What's with your injury then? From the very beginning, Bai Yan's been suspecting something was up when Mu Lung showed up so perfectly after the girl was salvaged from the water. Now it's beginning to make total sense. It's the Mu Manners people. The fatty puckers his lip to the side in discontent. Those people were afraid of me exposing this matter to others. That's why they sent assassins after me. Luckily my heart grew on the wrong side of my body and allowed me to avoid dying. Do you want revenge? Now Bai Yan's tone was getting cold and serious. Revenge? The fatty quickly waves hand in a panic, shaking his head to get the point through. Please don't make this joke with me. Mu Lung is Elder Muzhin's disciple. In the entire Elder Council, that old woman has more than enough power to crush a lowly grunt like me and cover it up without anyone knowing. Oh, is that so? Nodding at the man's insistence. If you are not interested in revenge, then I won't force you. However, I am a woman of standard. Any debt must be paid in equal exchange. Regarding the part about you revealing me to Mu Lung, I expect you to repay me with your life as compensation. Originally the fatty merchant was already getting ready to issue a sigh of relief, but to hear this threatening statement from out of the blue, he could literally cry tears of foul. And you call that not forcing me? How do you expect me to refuse when you're threatening my life? All serious in return. Of course I'm not forcing you, just that. I like equal exchanges. Who told you to expose me to those people? Crying in grievance now, the fat merchant knew he's now on the hook. Then what do you want me to do? Nothing much. Only you coming out at the critical moment to act as a witness. And as an extra measure of safety, you will follow me from now on. Impersonate 5. Why do I feel like following you is even more dangerous? Puckering his lip to the side, the fat merchant had an aching sensation this couldn't be good. Talk about bad karma. If he knew things would devolve into such a dangerous state, then he would have never gotten greedy and sold the ticket to this devilish woman. What are you still standing there for? If you can still move, then come with me now. Giving only a glance, Bai Yin turns for the Zhong Manor, where her shifus should still be busy doing their own thing. Xiachen might have already went back by now since it is getting late. A grumbling tummy always gets the best of him. As much as the fatty merchant wanted to resist, he knew well enough that the woman in front of himself far exceeded his own strength. In the end he could only begrudgingly follow from behind until they arrived at their destination. You are Elder Zhongnan and Zhongbei's people? The man asks with astonishment in his eyes. They are my shifus. Bai Yin returns with a slight nod. This? If she is their disciple, then why didn't she receive an invitation slip that day? Growing increasingly wary after thinking of that part, the fatty still knew he must get a clearer answer if he were to continue on with this plan. I didn't know the two elders had another disciple. From what I hear, they only had one from 20 years ago. After that person died in a freak accident, the two elders have been in a tumbling spiral downwards ever since. Halting in her step, Bai Yin swings around using a rather intimidating stance. I will get revenge for my shifus. Don't tell me. While watching that fierce reaction, the fatty merchant suddenly came down with an ominous idea. The one who killed your senior, it's Elder Muzhin's people, isn't it? If not for that reason, then why would she go through so much trouble to topple Muzhin and Mu Lung? Turning that fierce face into a condescending one, Bai Yin stares down at the person like he's a dead man. You know, knowing too much is not good for the faint of heart. The more they know, the quicker they die. The threat nearly made the fatty pee himself right then and there. Whatever he wanted to say next, he's lost it, for he knows he's now in a wolf's den and could no longer come back out. Miss, I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. If everything fails, then retreat is always the best solution. I don't want to get caught up in between the power struggle of two elder factions. But before he could make it a single step out of the front door, Two muscular men had blocked off his path. Gulping over this, he swings around again. "Miss, what does it take for you to spare me?" Smiling like a smug monster in human skin, Bai Yin makes a comforting pat on the man's shoulder, which only increased the already tense air. "Don't worry. I promise to keep you safe, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. The two of them will be responsible for your protection. And if you want to be even safer, all you have to do is keep within 100 meters of me at all times." In light of that statement, the fatty only found his life increasingly shorter, like it won't be very long before he meets his end. "Please, milady, I still have young ones and old ones to look after in my life. Please have some mercy. One more word, and I will let you meet your maker this instant." Squinting those eyes, her tone turned threatening. Sure enough, the other side immediately shuts that mouth and didn't utter another word. "I have something to do still, so you can walk around the place on your own if you like. Remember though, do not leave the Zhong Manor's premise." Signaling the two muscular men in the back to take the person away to his quarter, she then turns to her own residence in search of the naughty little fox. Bai Yin thought the boy would have returned by now for sure, but after much searching and flipping, there were no signs of the little rascal. Now the mother's starting to truly worry and panic. Where exactly did my son go? If it was under normal circumstances, he would definitely come back and tell me first if he's staying out late. Just when this mother's struggling to decide on her next course of action, a guard from the front had come in to report. "Miss, someone is seeking an audience with you." "See me?" Slightly frowning. "Let him inside." "Yes, milady." Affirming with a nod, the guard quickly retreats for the task. Not long after, the supposed guest had arrived at her courtyard. It was a man wearing a golden-colored robe with eyes curiously scanning the surroundings. When he finally noticed Bai Yan's existence though, that curious face promptly lit up, and he ran over like a overjoyed kid. Impersonate 6. Ms. He had wanted to follow Tsing Yi's way of calling Bai Yan his mistress, but after thinking it through when it's a public place, he decides to stuff the thought back down. "I am Goldie." "Goldie." Blinking in astonishment, Bai Yan hurries to signal the maids and guards nearby to go. "All of you retreat first and leave us to ourselves." "Yes, milady." Due to her being Zhongnan and Zhongbei's disciple, everyone within the estate now takes her as the third highest authority. Aside from the two elders themselves, the woman's words are law. Once they're alone again, Bai Yan got right to the point. "Why did you come all of a sudden?" "It's the little master. He told me to bring you a message, mistress. He said he will return in a few days due to a matter at hand." Making a slight frown. "My son needs to be away for a few days. Xiachen is always so clingy. Why would he suddenly want to leave for a few days?" "I don't know either, but the little master told me he is very safe and would return on his own." "I see." Exhaling a long sigh. "You can go back first then." Although she doesn't know what her son intends to do during this period, it didn't matter because Bai Yan's trust in her son remains strong. As long as he's not in danger, then it's fine. "Mistress." The human-formed Goldie suddenly starts to wiggle awkwardly like a shy little child. "Lady Tsingy told me to stay with you for protection, and that she's fine with only Silvery by her side." Musing over the idea, it didn't long for her to come to a conclusion. "Fine then, you can stay. But tell me first, how did my son get in contact with you?" "This?" Goldie scratches his head and puts on the broadest cheek-eating grin he's ever made. "I gave him a transmission stone before you and the little master left last time. It was something I picked up by accident one day. But Xiachen can't speak in his current state. How did you understand him?" "That's not an issue, mistress. As long as he speaks to me using his heart, then I can understand his message." The knowledge instantly causes the woman's eye to flicker with light. "Do you remember where you found the transmission stone?" "It's over at the Dragon Clan's side." "Dragon Clan?" Rubbing her chin in contemplation. "Why not? I need to go there sooner or later anyways. I'll send someone to arrange a room for you later. You can stay here for now." "Okay." Goldie was now giggling with glee, the polar opposite of what a huge ferocious dragon should look like. Meanwhile, at the same time in a not-so-far-away mountain, The little rascal of a fox had just finished tucking away the transmission stone in his possession. Goldie will bring my message to Mother. Then Mother won't have to worry about me. But before Bai Xiachen could enjoy his momentary victory, a tall shadow from behind had enveloped his tiny body, thus causing the poor kid to freeze right on the spot. Is your mother really in a place like this? The man's voice was hoarse and somber as he asked. The little fox nodded in quick succession. Against that innocent child look, it would be difficult for one to doubt his sincerity. Issue was, the one making the question was Di Tsong, the demon lord and ruler of the demon realm. There's no way he would fall for his own son's trick. Arching his lip into a cheeky smirk, this rascal really think I can't hear his message just now, does he? There's nothing I can't intercept at this range. Whatever. As long as he can't overcome that hole in his heart, then he won't take me to his mother. I will need to think of something to fix this. Xiachen, are you hungry? I just caught a pheasant, so why I don't make a roast for you, how about it? Normally Bai Xiachen would never deny an offering of food. However, the image of Di Tsong blowing up the kitchen from the last time he was inside their home still lingers vividly in his mind. Therefore, his first answer was to shake his head around like a rocking drum. But whether it be a yes or no, the demon lord didn't care. Ignoring the expression of his son's distraught face, he sweeps his sleeve and summoned up a pile of branches, where he immediately shot out a fireball to light it up. Impersonate 7. The little fox definitely lacked confidence in his old man's culinary skills, but that soon changed after he got his first whiff of the barbecue scent in the air. All of a sudden, there's now a drooling kid, who kept trying to resist the temptation despite that constant peeking from the corner of his eye. After half an hour later, Di Tsong readily tosses the roasted pheasant over to the boy's side, where he immediately took a huge bite out of the flesh like a hungry animal. The flavor and aroma were overflowing, filling his jaws and taste bud to the brim of intoxication. Then realizing the fault in his manners, Bai Xiachen at least had some consciousness left in his gluttonous self. Ripping one of the legs off, he tosses it back over to the watching demon lord like it's his form of kindness. Di Tsong on the other hand honestly didn't expect this from the boy. The kid's always been quite resistant to his existence. That's why this act actually shook him somewhat, and made him get a true sense of being a father. The one who hunted you and your mother really wasn't me before, and I've dealt with them already. Sadly, the boy only had the roast pheasant in mind right now, so none of those sincere words even reached his ears, let alone sway the kid's opinion. Truly, only a mother would know their son the best. Exactly like Bai Yin predicted, the grumbling stomach always comes out on top for this little glutton. What do I have to do to get you to take me to your mother? As long as you tell me, then I will promise anything. Di Tsong once again pleads using his gentlest tone. Shaking his little head after a good moment of musing. Nope, I mustn't bring Batty father to see mother. Otherwise mother will surely beat him away. And I haven't even forgiven him yet. Xiachen, if I'm not wrong, you fell into a frenzied state before, did you not? Frenzied. The little fox blinks and blinks, confused by the term. What's that? He knew only to protect his mother back then, and to kill anyone who wants to bring her harm. As for everything else, he didn't have a clue remaining in his already hazy memory. From the very beginning I could tell there's a mysterious force contained within your blood. I had thought it would take several more years before that power breaks forward. But it seems it can longer wait. Bringing the fox into his arms, the man leisurely leans against the nearby tree like a magnificent sculpture. Naturally Bai Xiachen would struggle at the contact. After all, he's still quite upset at his old man. But a baby fox would remain a baby fox. There's no way he could overpower a fully grown man's binding hands. Don't move. Di Tsong's finger taps down at the boy's temple. In an instant, a cool stream of energy flows into that body, causing a wave of refreshing tension to take hold. Eventually a pleased groaning sound escaped the boy's mouth. His appearance was no different from a kitty cat being petted with its eyes closed. Then just as the pleasurable massage was at its peak, the stream of energy suddenly stopped, causing him to wince and look up in puzzlement. At this moment Di Tsong's complexion didn't look good at all despite the smirk he held. In fact, The voice he's making carried a trace of weakness. Originally I wanted to wait a bit longer for my strength to restore itself. But it's clear that cannot wait anymore. Remember, what I did will only last for 2 years. Afterwards the rest is up to yourself. Otherwise the mysterious power will return and cause havoc in your own body. Making a muffled howl at his old man's weakened state, the kid's big blue eyes were filled with water. I'm fine. I just need a bit of rest. After saying that, the demon lord then carefully placed his son down to take a proper posture. With his eyes closed, he's now in a meditative state under the setting sunset, giving him an almost holy and Buddhist look. Under normal situations, Bai Xiachen would have made a bolt for home by this stage considering everything he's been through. However, against the fatigued appearance of the man here, he just couldn't move. Impersonate. 8. Sprawling down to his old man, Bai Xiachen would on occasion shoot up a glance up from time to time check the man's status. This act continued until the kid could hear the breathing growing more and more smoothly, which was a good sign, and the signal for his unease to settle down. Xiachen, I am a little thirsty, can you get some water for me? After some time, Ditsong awakes and smiles down at the boy who was still around resting. The kid didn't act up like usual, only giving a quick nod before hurrying off to the river, not far away from their location. If only Bai Xiachen had taken a moment to think this request through then, he would have remembered something crucial. For a powerful master, not eating or drinking for months on end wouldn't be an issue at all. So the fact that the great demon lord would ask him to get water should have been a huge red flag for something strange. Sure enough, as soon as that little figure finished disappearing from view, Ditsong's complexion could no longer keep up the facade, and instantly turned into an unhealthy shade of white, where he ended up puking blood from his mouth. It looks like it's still too early to be using my strength like that. But if I didn't, then he would be at constant danger of suffering a relapse from his own powers. Wiping the trail of blood smeared to his chin, this father didn't regret the fact. He's only annoyed that the effort and cost didn't quite match up to what his expectations wanted. After all, the original plan was to wait till they meet up with Bai Yin first before tackling the issue. But that thought went out the window after he noticed the urgency in his son's body. Thoughts aside, Ditsong knew he must get his act together before the boy notices his condition. Hurrying to scatter the ground with dirt, he covers up the blood he made. Good timing too, because as soon as he was done, the little fox had returned with the water, using a makeshift bowl, using a bamboo leaf. Smiling at this, the man didn't hesitate and readily took a drink from his son's generosity. Why didn't you leave just now? He asks with a pleased undertone. Towards his old man's inquisitive question, Bai Xiachen honestly didn't know what to make of it either, aside from swinging his head repeatedly. It's true he wanted to leave as well and return to his mother's side. But those legs refused to budge for some reason. Maybe it's because I can't bear it? Hanging his head, the kid wanted to reprimand himself for getting soft. I won't betray mother still. Don't worry. I won't force you to take me to your mother for the coming days. Ditsong needed only a glance to understand what his son's thought patterns were, so he didn't press the matter. Really? Lighting up in joy, the little fox looks up at his old man happily. But you have to stay within my sight during this period while we are together. Catching the little guy into his grasp again, he dryly states his terms. There's no way he could let this fella go. If he does, then how is he supposed to find his wife again? The little fox desperately nodded in return. As long as he doesn't force me to go find mother, then anything can be negotiated. Come. I found a cave earlier, so we will go there to recuperate. While the father and son were having some bonding time together, Bai Yin on the other hand was busy training in her own residence, so none of the members in this family were able to learn of the major event taking place within the Dragon River. It's nothing much really, only that Silvery had been caught by the members of the Misty Fairy House after the careless dragon went out for a stroll. Normally the slithering serpent could easily suppress a group of fighters merely by using his draconian aura. But this was one of the 3 major powers out there. One master couldn't do the task doesn't mean a dozen masters couldn't. Impersonate 9. Elder Muzhin. Upon seeing the arrival of this old beauty and her disciple, Those who were already standing at the Dragon River promptly moved aside to create a path for them. Giving a confident nod, Mujin slowly strode towards the front where a heavily bruised-up dragon was lying there on the shore. Due to the large numbers of wounds and injuries, Silvery was now panting heavily despite the ferocious glare he's giving to the surrounding crowd. Is this the dragon that tried to attack the dragon boat that day? Coming up to the captive, Mujin stares down condescendingly at the dragon to express her own opinion. How come there's only one here? I remember in the reports there were 2 that day. Where's the last one? Shifu, we can have our people go down again to search the waterbed. The Dragon River is only so big. There's no room for the other one to hide at this point. Offering up the suggestion, Mu Lung grins maliciously at the impending treasure she's about to get. Dragons are full of precious materials, right down to its nucleus core. For example, the scales could be used to craft weapons or armors, which are invaluable to a cultivator who needs a personal gear in combat. Then there's the flesh of the serpent. Ignoring the delicious taste that's been spouted since tales of old, the benefits from digesting a slab of said meat would outweigh the danger of slaying one of these legendary creatures because of the great boost to one's bodily functions. You are right, my dear. Nodding at her student's suggestion, Mujin signals her people to dive. All of you go now. I want that second dragon captured and placed before my eyes. Silvery roared out at the humans as soon as he overheard their plan. Despite the heavy injuries and bruises he sustained, his huge body once again moves to take an aggressive stance. Lady Tsingy is still inside the river. I can't let any of these human down there. Furrowing her brow at the offensive display by the serpent, Mujin needed no further reason to attack. Forming a fist, she sends a direct blow against Silvery's main body. You dare to block me? You're asking for death. Bang! Swinging around and making a heavy thud against the shore, Silvery found his strength completely leaving him this time. He couldn't even raise his head anymore after that hit. No. If things continue like this, then Lady Tsing, he will surely be in danger. I must notify Goldie. In between the blurring haziness that's swiftly overtaking the poor dragon's consciousness, he could see the humans are quickly moving towards the body of water. Above the Zhong Manor, an extremely thick and powerful gush of energy was quickly gathering and converging in the sky above this estate. From afar, it would look like a storm was brewing. Boom! Suddenly, strikes of lightning began to rain down at the ground, covering the sky with the gloominess of a forming hurricane. As a result, all of those elders and powerful individuals had become alarmed and had started to investigate. That is someone breaking through into the higher level of the monarch rank? It looks like it's coming from the general direction of the Zhong Manor. Zhong Manor? Is it the Zhong brothers? But aren't those 2 seriously injured and could no longer progress in this lifetime? How can they suddenly make a breakthrough after so many years of nothing? I bet it's some other master passing through their home and decided to hunker down for a breakthrough. The Zhong brothers can still break into the higher level of the monarch rank? Don't kid around. In any case, we should inform the chief and madam first. Exchanging a look with each, the group of elders decides to consult with the leading family first before taking action. We will go to the Zhong Manor first to investigate. By then we will know who is having a breakthrough. Chief Wu Wei makes his decision after listening in on the information he's given. The man originally wanted to summon Ho Chui Chui since he's heard from Huan Yin that they've rescued the girl. But he's the chief. When a high-level monarch rank master appears, then he must divert his attention. That way, since he must put the Misty Fairy House before his own family. Impersonate 10. After saying this, the chief then firmly walked towards the door where her wife soon followed from behind. Jun Tianyu, wife, may be quite anxious inside to meet the lass who managed to cure Huan Yin of her condition. But this mother knew she mustn't go out of line in times like these. Inside the Zhong Manor, Bai Yin had only just opened her eyes after meditating when she overheard the hearty laughs of 2 familiar seniors. Next thing she knew, they had barged into her room with the biggest grin she's seen so far after getting to know them both. Haha, lassie, you really are our blessing. Not only did the medicine you found cure us of our old injuries, It also helped us break into the higher level of the monarch rank. In truth, these two old fellas were well into their late stages of making a breakthrough back in the day, just that due to the injury they sustained they were unable to complete the task. With the superior strength, they now have the capital to confront Muzhen. It has nothing to do with me, Shifu. It's entirely your own fortune. Standing up to greet them, Bai Yin puts on a genuine smile of her own. But before the three could rejoice in the moment, the door was once again slammed open. Coming in was Goldie in his frantic state. Mistress, something major has happened. Frowning at this. What's going on? I and Silvery are twins, so I can sense his injury. Mistress, it must be those people who are searching the river. They've hurt him. If Lady Tsing-yi were to be found by them, I fear it will spell her ladyship's doom. If it was 100 years ago, then no one in the Misty Fairy House could be the Dragoness's opponent. However, Tsing-yi's been seriously injured since that event, so she's unable to fight, let alone defend herself. We're going to the Dragon River now. Bai Yin loudly proclaims this, her eyes sharp and dangerous. Zhongnan and Zhongbei were also frowning after seeing their student's sudden change in attitude. Yenner, do you need our help? If you could please. For the offer, she didn't reject and kindly accepted it with a nod. And then, without so much as another word, her figure was gone from the spot, leaving behind only a blurring afterimage in her wake. How did Yenner move so fast? That's not a speed an Earth-rank cultivator should have. Despite his own doubts and astonishment, Zhongnan didn't want to delay, and tossed the dilemma aside. The urgent task at hand was to help his precious disciple save someone important. The rest could wait until they are back. More and more onlookers are beginning to gather around the river bank after news of the dragon's capture. For Ho Chui, who had always been a nosy person by nature, she of course couldn't bear to miss out on such a huge event. Taking advantage of the guard's lack of attention, the former chubby girl snuck out on her own again, and came to the site, where she soon noticed a certain female. Miss Huan-yin. Originally Huan-yin herself wanted to ignore the fraudster when she noticed the other side's arrival. But to be called out in the open, it's now impossible to pretend. Therefore, the only response was a faint nod to affirm the greeting. Ignorant to the point of not seeing the lack of reception, Ho Chui actually had the face to get all friendly despite the other side's unwillingness to chat. The evil dragon is finally caught. We can now get revenge for ourselves, Miss Huan-yin. Aren't you happy? Slaying the dragon for doing evil deeds is fine, but I fear this creature will face a fate worse than death while in Elder Muzhen's hand. Sighing at the thought, Huan-yin felt pity for the serpent that's covered in a pool of blood right now. As painful as it was for her heart, the girl herself knew this was how the world works. The strong eats the strong. It's the ironclad rule of every living being. And regarding this Ho Chui's claim about getting revenge for them both, Huan-yin wasn't so sure about that. She may not have evidence yet, but it's just a matter of time before her father discovers the truth. That much the girl was certain. With each tick of the clock, everyone grew increasingly more wary as they waited in silence around the river bank. But everything eventually comes to an end. Elder, we couldn't find another dragon inside the river. One of the members of the search group reports after surfacing. Impersonate 11. None. Muzhen's face sank. Did you make sure to search everywhere? We didn't miss a single spot, Elder. There was nothing aside from the palace that we discovered along the way. And when we searched inside there weren't anyone inside either. The subordinate explains. No dragon? How can it be? Musing over the issue, Muzhen came down with another idea after some careful deduction. I am an elder of the Misty Fairy House, and I know you are here somewhere. They say dragons never abandon their own, so why not step forward to show yourself? Her lips then evoked into a sinister snarl like that of a predator discovering their prey's hiding spot. Someone come, chop this dragon into mincemeat. I like to see how long the other one can continue to hide while his companion is being killed. Yes, Elder. Led by the closest subordinate next to the old beauty, the man held no hesitation when sheathing his blade. Slicing down, the move instantly sheds down a good chunk of meat from the already battered-up body. Silvery made an excruciating scream over the pain, of course, but more than that, His hatred for this woman stood above all else right now, causing even his whole body to tremble all over from anger. This was honestly a very bloody scene for everyone involved. Huanyin especially, who hastened to turn herself aside before the gruesome scene. I'll count to 3. If you do not appear by that time, then I'll bloody scrape off his flesh entirely. Muzhin's gaze turned sharp and cruel to emphasize her threat. 1, 2. Before the final count could be said though, a heavy set of splashes were set off within the river, and out came a humongous green dragon ascending into the air. She radiated courage and majestic might, a splitting image of her once glorious image of the one known as Azure Dragon, the great dragon general of the demon realm. Lady Xingyi. Silvery urgently struggles to stand upright only to be ruthlessly stomped down again by Muzhin's foot. Before long, the figure of Xingyi's existence gradually changed and took on a human form of a woman, wearing a light green dress. The complexion she gave may be pale and weak, but those eyes were strong. Silvery is my subordinate, so the fault lies with me in not disciplining him prior to the attack. I'm apologizing to the 2 frightened girls here. She then makes a sincere bow to show she meant it. But I remember that my subordinate never harmed you in any way, yet you injured him to such a severe state. How should I take that? Muzhin sneered. I am an elder of the Misty Fairy House, so it's within my duty to get even for those under my charge. Forget about hurting this dragon. Even if I kill him right now, it's still his fault to bear. A young girl meekly raises a hand just then. I accept her apology. The one speaking up was the first girl, who got dragged into the water. At first she was still holding a heavy grudge for what happened to herself, however. The tragic image of Silvery being butchered left that sweet maiden heart aching and unbearable. I accept the apology too. Shooting a glance over to the old hag who's using justice as an excuse, Huanyin decides to step forward as well to make her stance clear. Muzhin's complexion took a slight turn for the worse, but that quickly changed once her gaze fell upon Ho Chui-Chui's presence. This girl over there is also a victim. I promised her before that I will get her justice. Taken aback by the accusation, Xingyi promptly looked over to the specified Ho Chui-Chui before turning back to Silvery on the ground. Did you harm someone else again? No, I didn't. Lady Xingyi, I don't know who that third girl is. Shaking his head profusely despite it being nothing more than a slight jiggle due to his own injuries. The poor dragon clearly didn't know who the imposter was based on his tone and reaction towards her own subordinate's words. The dragoness would never doubt them, for they are as close as it comes in terms of family. In an instant, a touch of frosted ice now enshrouds her gaze that's peering down at the human woman. By Yan's arrival 1. My men didn't take her so based on what can you hurt him so badly? Fluttering against the wind with her existence, Xingyi's aura became cold and menacing like that of a seasoned general from the battlefield. Ha! Muzhin's lip curved into a sarcastic snarl. You expect us to believe his words just because he claims so? We are not so foolish to believe a beast's word. Besides, so what if he didn't attack the third girl? The fact that you can contribute your bodies to humanity is your honor. The implication of those words was that she could butcher their dragon kind and still be honored and worshipped for the deed. A true narcosis. This world have always been like this, the strong eating the weak. As weaklings, you are not qualified to live. She slowly paced towards Xingyi's location, her eyes showing a threatening coldness of someone readying to commit murder. It didn't help either that the sky had become dark as a result of the thunderclouds quickly gathering around the area, giving it an ominous feeling in the air. For those that only came to observe and watch, they immediately retreated to one side, fearing the ensuing battle would affect them. Lady Xingyi, spatting out blood in his cry, Silvery looks up with concern in his eyes over the welfare of his mistress. It looks like a battle is inevitable today. No, no, no. Muzhin shakes her head to refute that claim. This battle can be avoided, provided you become my apprentice's mount. This woman and the silver dragon are not the same. Her potential will surely benefit my apprentice's future. Besides, having such a proud dragon as a slave would surely trample anyone who dares to challenge my prestige. I, Xingyi, whether it be this life or the last, will only follow one person. Have me be this wench's mount? She's not worthy. Originally Mulung was still relishing in silent delight at the impending prize that's about to come her way, but now to hear the insult being directed at herself in open public, it's now lost and all that remains were the ugly expression on her face. Damn this bitch, how dare she humiliate me in front of everyone? Since you are giving up such a great opportunity, then don't blame me. Mujin's aura began to swell outward as the old beauty takes to the sky, leveling the difference in elevation at least by taking to the air. But before we begin, I want you to understand one thing. My disciple's future is infinite, so the fact that you are unwilling to follow her is your loss. What a shame. You won't be able to see that glorious day, and could only become her nourishment after today. Singy sneered. You talk too much. The choice is made when you're unwilling to release my people. Moving at the signaling rumble of a lightning strike from the storm cloud, it was the dragoness who launched the first attack. Bang! Two palms collided from their exchange, causing the ground to shake and the water to gush upward, until they are pillars writhing from the chaotic energy. Grirower! Silvery howls out again in his urgency. Damn it! If her ladyship was still her old self, then none of these humans would be able to stand up to her. Despite his struggle, the injured guy did nothing more than making dust clouds from moving his humongous body. Tears shed from those eyes, showing how unbearable it must be inside over his inability. By Yan's arrival too, while the battle continued to progress in the air, Singy grew increasingly impatient as her consecutive attacks failed to land. Eventually a gush of blood began to make its way up her throat, only to be pressed down again by sheer will. Thankfully the foe didn't fare any better though. Mujin could see how violent and intense the dragoness was going at herself, so she didn't dare to dive in rashly. This was also the main driving force behind her determination to take down the green dragon. It's too tempting to allow one such as this to escape. What are you all doing? The old beauty hollers out at the crowd down below. Hurry and join me to take down this dragon. Various awkward glances were passed along the crowd. They know very well the green dragon up there held strength far beyond their own, making it a likelihood of themselves sustaining damage or offering up their life in the process. Only a fool would want to do that when they're not going to reap any benefit. Moreover, didn't the ones affected by all this forgive the dragons? There's no reason or plausible cause to intervene. Understanding all these points, the other elders who were present for the fight did not move, only playing dumb like good little doggies that they were. Mujin didn't miss this, and wanted to vomit blood at their cowardice. She's already knees deep into this mess, and if the situation continues to drag out then reinforcements might arrive for this dragon. That's an outcome she couldn't afford. Grinding her teeth, the old beauty shoots a signaling glare over to Ho Chui Chui, who's now taking up the identity as the third victim. Unfortunately for her though, the former chubby girl not only didn't do as she wished, the person deliberately turned away to avoid eye contact and stepped backwards. Growing increasingly frustrated now. Do the bunch of you know why the chief wants to find Miss Ho for? He's learned of the Mrs. medical ability to cure Huan Yin's uncurable condition, and intends to have her inspect the young lord's illness. If he learns of how you are all standing by, and doing nothing after I'm through, then I can guarantee he won't be pleased. Prepare yourselves for severe punishment. To be clear, the old beauty emphasized on medical ability, and not her alchemy. That leaves a lot of wiggle room for when the time comes. And even if it's not possible to cure Yin Feng's mental outbursts, which was very unlikely since it's all a lie, none are able to blame those involved. After all, no one claimed Ho Chui Chui was a miracle healer, only her medical abilities are top-notch. Contrary to the confident Mujin who's using her as a bargaining chip, the former chubby girl herself didn't feel so good right now. In fact, she's downright panicking after hearing what's in store for her future. Isn't the chief only seeking me out to give his gratitude? What cure his son's illness? How am I supposed to cure something I don't know? Seeing Mujin's warning glare again, Ho Chui Chui's body instantly froze on the spot. She's got enough awareness to understand that the Mu Manor and herself was now tied to a single rope. If they fall, she falls. Go capture that dragon for me. gripping her hand into a tight ball, the fake lashes out to hide the sweat that's slowly forming on her forehead. If you kill that thing, then I will inform the chief of your merits. I'm sure he will give anyone involved preferential treatment. It worked. After exchanging a few nods between themselves, the elders leaped in unison and blocked off Xing Yi's back and escape route. It was hard enough to tackle a single Muzhen in her already weakened state. Now that there's even more foes added to the fray, Xing Yi's side instantly went on a downward spiral. Pung! It's unsure whose blow it was, but after a few exchanges a heavy punch had landed on the dragoness's chest, causing her to come crashing down from the sky and into the crowd. With the onlookers further retreating and not wanting to get involved, the riverbank now leaves only Silvery's big huge body and the seriously injured Xing Yi on the ground. By Yan's arrival 3, cold in her eyes, Xing Yi refuses to show her weakness in front of the enemy that's quickly descending on her location. I'll give you one last chance, are you willing to surrender? Muzhen makes a condescending stare from above, like a hunter that's captured its prey. Death is nothing to be scared of. Even if I die, I will take you people with me to hell before I'm done. Huffing a laugh, Xing Yi refuses to be taken in contempt or be disgraced. Bai Yan had only just arrived on the scene, after rushing over from the Zhong Manor, when she overheard this proclamation. Her heart felt like a hammer smashed it to pieces, knowing how close she came to losing someone important. If I don't walk into the flames, who will? However, before I go to hell, I will certainly drag you all to hell with me. On this blood-colored battlefield, thousands of enemies are facing off against a single young man. That's the same dreaded scene from her memories, once again replaying itself before her eyes, showing it through like a lens in a camera, and causing the beautiful contour which belongs to Bai Yan to flush red from pain and anger. Her whole person was wildly fluctuating with increased intent, turning and transforming this female into a razor-sharp sword that intends to strike down any foe that comes her way. Zhongnan and Zhongbei was right behind their student, and became absolutely astounded by the sudden change in her momentum. But before the two seniors could dive further on this topic, Bai Yan's body had already turned into a beam of light shooting over to the middle of the fighting. Pompous in her attitude, Muzhen was so full of herself that she's dismissing all possibility of enemy reinforcement. This is your choice, so don't blame me. Since you won't surrender, then I will take your demon core and use it to improve my cultivation and make a breakthrough. This dragon's strength is equal to my own powers. If I can use her, then I might even be able to reach a height never before seen in the Misty Fairy House. Think of this. The old beauty's lip unconsciously curled into an evil snarl as she sliced down with her blade. Boom! From out of the blue, a blast of light came lancing over in the nick of time, and directly impacted Muzhen's hand. Due to being unguarded from any form of sneak attack, her sword had bounced out of her fingers, and made an audible clank upon hitting the ground. Who dares to attack me from behind? Swinging around, the old beauty readies herself to retaliate, only to turn into a stiff statue after seeing that face. Her heart jumped repeatedly from the shock. No way. The sled is dead. There's no way she could be here. Shifu, Mulung saw her teacher's panic and hurried to call out, breaking the stupor and returning the situation back to before. Growing cold in her gaze now, Elder Muzhen gnashes her teeth. This woman must be that bitch's child. To think her face would be so similar to that slut. Oh no. I must not let the chief see her. Or else. Outrageous. Coming back to her senses at what this danger implies, Muzhen roars out to take back control of the situation. Do you know what it means to attack an elder? Bai Yan paid no heed to the screeching banshee in the background, reaching out a helping hand, her eyes completely focused in on her pale-looking subordinate. I'm sorry I am late. Blinking at the hand given her way, Xing Yi didn't know how to react at first. She didn't want to expose their relationship up front, due to fear of implicating her mistress into this whole mess. But to see the complete disregard for safety was beyond her comprehension. Feeling the warmth slowly creeping into her heart, the dragoness eventually broke out into a weepy smile, and knew she's now safe, giving the shimmering dressed man who followed from behind a glance. Goldie, why did you bring her here? I was afraid you would be in danger. Drooping his head, the gold dragon makes an apologetic bow of his head to show the guilt inside. You shouldn't have cared for me. In light of those words, her hands still met with the one given, and allowed Bai Yan to pull herself up. Bai Yan's arrival 4. You stay by my side. I will handle the rest. Letting go of her hand, Bai Yan slowly turned to confront the old hag who dares to cross herself. A wisp of killing intent promptly spreads out of her body, allowing it to cover the entire river bank. In my previous life, Azure Dragon was willing to exhaust his everything for me. Now that he's reborn as Tsing-Yi, I must do everything to keep her safe. I owe her so much that I can never repay her in full. Eyes contracting against the defiance, Muzhin snaps. You and this dragon, what are your relationship? She's my subordinate. Bai Yan's voice sounded neither haughty nor cold, yet it was able to easily provoke the ire of foe and her student. Showing jealousy in her eyes, Mu Lung bites her lower lip. This girl was also dragged into the river by these two dragons. Why did they become her subordinate? If I had known it would come to this, then I would have gone to save Huan Yin instead. Haha. The old beauty's reaction wasn't as frosty. Rather, it swayed towards the hysterical side in that sarcastic cackle. No wonder this dragon would refuse to become my student's mount. So it's a blind dragon. Out of consideration for its poor eyesight, I will let it die a quick death later. As for you though, squinting her eyes until it's firing daggers, colluding with dragons, humph, I won't let you go either. Seeing there's no reaction to her threat, Muzhin decides it's time she allowed the other side to understand what it means to go against her will. The pressuring aura of a high-level monarch rank came gushing forward at her release. Even so, Bai Yan remains unfazed and stood there like she's on a picnic trip. Now she's enraged. The old beauty did not expect the damn lassie to be able to stand up to herself in this state. Forming a fist, she smashes down with a hammering blow created by the energy she formed in the air. Yet, however, before her attack could even make contact, a loud hollering roar had come rushing over from the front. Muzhin, how dare you make a move against our disciple? An attack came lunging over as soon as that was said, catching the old beauty by surprise due to being who the assailant was. Zhongnan older held nothing back in his furious strike. Meeting the old woman's hammer blow from above with his own palm, the resulting shockwave completely crushes the rocks nearby and riled up a dust of cloud. No, impossible. How can you break into the higher level of the monarch rank? Muzhin's voice shook with incredulous. In the old beauty's view, reaching such a level may be difficult, but not impossible for others. However, Zhongnan shouldn't be able to in lifetime at all. Yet reality and the long trail of footmark on the sandy ground said it all. She's been knocked backwards. There is nothing impossible in this world. Muzhin, it's time we settled our debt today. Taking several big strides forward, the old man's expression was cold and sharp. Huh? Muzhin scoffs a laugh. So what if you broke into the higher level? No matter what you do, you are still one step behind me. Furthermore, you're only you while we have everyone else here. What can a single you do before a whole crowd of us? It was Zhongnan's turn to scoff a laugh. They are members of the Elder Council as well. What makes you think they will help you? That may not be so. Snarling sarcastically, Muzhin shifts her gaze over to Ho Chui Chui. This lady Miss Ho, she's Huan Yin's savior and benefactor. Right now the chief and madam is especially fond of her existence. And even the second young lord is showing exceptional interest in the lady. As long as she gives the word, then the elders will follow. Showing surprise in his face, Zhongnan immediately turns to the former chubby girl and frowned. So the one in the rumors are her. Bai Yan's arrival 5. Compared with Zhongnan's surprised face, Bai Yan's look to Ho Chui Chui only seemed strange. Slowly, her lips had curved into a smirk. Haha. It was then Zhongbei's younger. Hearty laugh came over from Muzhin's back. Under the watchful eye of everyone, the old senior proudly stepped forward to side with his brother. Muzhin, I'm afraid you won't get your wish. Even if you all work together, me and my older brother won't let you harm my disciple. The old beauty still wanted to chip in some more cynical words, but that's changed the second she noticed the other side's cultivation. You broke through to the higher level? These two bastards, they've both broke through? Mistress, coughing at his attempt to speak, Silvery sways his huge body unsteadily. I take this medicine first. Coming over, Bai Yin readily hands over a beady pill that's able to heal up the guy's injury at a visible speed. Back over in the crowd, Huan Yin was listening to the conversation with careful ear. And for some reason, she's got the aching feeling that it's very familiar. Why do I feel like I've heard it somewhere? Mistress, maybe I am too stupid, but there is one thing I don't understand, says Silvery. The third person we dragged into the water from that day is clearly you. Yet this woman over there says it's her instead. Goldie promptly shot a glare over to his twin brother. What crap are you spouting now? When did Mistress get dragged down by us? She clearly jumped into the water on her own to save the other two. The crowd suddenly went quiet to the point where only the bristling sound of the wind remains. Now Huan Yin's got what she's trying to catch at in the head. Flickering with light in the eyes, she stares intently over to the woman in red that's now the center of attention. Outrageous! Muzhin's expression drastically changed. Zhongnan, your disciple is very bold. How dare she pretend to be Huan Yin's savior? If she's her savior, then does that mean I can say she instructed these two dragons to deliberately pull the girls into the water in order to save them? Goldie flew into a rage after hearing Muzhin's twisted logic. My mistress really jumped into the water in order to save the others. If not for Lady Tsingy interfering and stopped us before we ate her, then she would have died along with the two females. Unlike Silvery, who's more on the naive side, Goldie understood the situation better and wanted to push Bai Yin into the highest level. But the truth, they were cowering as soon as Bai Yin jumped into the water. That would not only make the situation spiral downwards, it would also make them brothers look bad in public as well. My mistress's alchemic abilities are very good, and she promised to heal Lady Tsingyi's injury. Since Milady is willing to recognize her as the mistress, then us brothers will also recognize her. This speech caused Huan Yin to produce trickles of tears. What a good girl she is. Not only did she save me, she even gave the impersonator a chance. Compared to the ordinary Ho Chui Chui who didn't stand out in any way, she's more willing to believe Bai Yin to be the one. Disciple, Zhongnan's heart sank at the notion. Is it true? Twitching in the corner of her mouth, Bai Yin initially wanted to give the truth when Zhongbei's scolding roar cut in. You brat, are you seeking death or something? What does others' life and death have to do with you? Now you almost got swallowed by a dragon. What if something happens to you for real? What will I and your first Shifu do if you are gone? Bai Yan's arrival 6. Just the thought of how obliviously close they were to losing their precious disciple again. The two elders would fall into a heart-clenching grief. Had it not been for her luck, then Yenner would have been in the dragon's belly. Of course, Bai Yin on the other hand was feeling immeasurably guilty right now. It's not like she's able to explain the truth to the two at this moment. For one, she's not so selfless to care for others' death and ignore her own safety. The main reason for the jump that day was out of consideration for Dragoni's whereabout. Since she couldn't find the little missy anywhere, then the next best choice would to ask around with the same kin. Maybe they might know something. Shifu, I would never regret saving others. Bai Yin then shifts her gaze over to her precious dragoness. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to find her. Zhongnan was rather taken aback. Does Yenna know this green dragon beforehand? At this moment Ho Chui Chui's face had turned ghastly white after hearing Silvery's word. Her body shakes, and wanted to flee the scene before it's too late. Against the real deal, an imposter's momentum would of course be weaker. Ho ho! Muzhin continues to snicker at the situation. You and them are of the same group. Why should I believe anything you say? If anything, I say the one lying is you. The rest of the elders exchanged various glances with each other. It's true. Compared with believing some dragon, they would rather believe their own kind. Besides, they are involved in the rescue effort of pulling Ho Chui Chui out of the river. If it becomes true that the girl was a fake, then wouldn't it mean their efforts are invalid? Elder Muzhin, biting her lip, Huan Yin decides to step forward. The one who saved me is this lady who just showed up. I'm certain of this because I recognize her voice. Turning frosty in the eyes, the old beauty increases her intimidating aura. What do you know, child? How could this impudent brat be your savior? Don't be fooled by their lies. Miss Ho is the real lady from that day, so don't it get wrong. I said it, she's my savior. What don't you understand? Huan Yin snaps, growing increasingly angrier by the moment. Go away, child. For someone that can't even recognize her own savior, to come dictate what I do is ridiculous. Don't bother me while I complete official business. You. Trembling all over from rage, the poor girl never seen such shamelessness before that it's leaving her speechless. Bai Yan had known about Muzhin's shamelessness from hearsay, but not to this extent. It's obvious the old hag intends to make Ho Chui Chui be the imposter regardless of what everyone says. Zhongnan older couldn't hold back his laughter anymore. This is truly a first for me. How could the one that's been rescued mistake their savior? And you, for someone that's not even involved, you actually got the nerve to say you can determine who's who? That's of course. Muzhin clicked her tongue, ignoring the strange looks coming her way. Huan Yin is just a child. Being blinded by those with devious schemes is normal. I, as an elder, have the duty to put her on the right path, and not allow those with ill intent to deceive her. I'm sure her father would also thank me once he gets wind of what I did. Big brother, Zhongbei younger, grinds his teeth. It's a waste to continue this talk. New and old hatred. It's time we get revenge for our poor disciple that she murdered years ago. Okay. Zhongnan silently nods, agreeing with his younger brother's view. Today, even if we disregard the rules, we must kill this bitch to get even for our two disciples. Shifus. Before the pair could make a move, the faint voice of Bai Yan's voice had come out again. This is not even the opening act yet, please wait. I promise you will get a good show if you are patient. Afterwards you can dispose of her as you please. Counting the time, that guy should be here by now. Squinting her eyes until it's like an eagle's, Bai Yan shoots a bemused look over to Muzhin, like she's able to see through to the woman's hidden secrets. A good play's opening one. Muzhin's heart panicked at first over that strange gaze. No, the chief would definitely take my side over some outsider. There's no way he would abandon me for some stranger. As for Zhongnan and Zhongbei, they only just broke through to the higher level. They could never beat me with their current skill. Not far away, a series of footsteps soon came into their ears, causing Bai Yan to swing around to meet the oncoming crowd. A flicker of surprise filled those eyes at who it was. Not that guy again. Right now the chief and his wife were leading the pack, after not finding the two seniors at the Zhong Manor. Zhongnan Zhongbei, you two made a breakthrough? Jun Tian, you wife, sounded very happy at the revelation. She's the mistress of the Misty Fairy House, so any form of strength increase meant the enhancement of her own house. It's just that. Didn't they suffer a crippling injury? How are they able to suddenly make a breakthrough? What changed? Chief. Muzhin became overjoyed at the sight of who came. Taking the initiative, she steps in front of the chief and his family. Elder Muzhin, what are you doing? Chief Wu Wei asks, his face making a frown. The matter is like this. Muzhin's gaze flashed with a cold glint as she twists the truth. This Miss Ho is the one who saved Huan Yin that day. But due to the fright she suffered while inside the Dragon River, I decided to take it upon myself to help her with the revenge against these dragons. Yet when I'm here carrying out my duty, Zhongbei and Zhongnan's disciples suddenly interfered, and even colluded with the dragons to side with them. I suspect they are all in on this, and orchestrated the whole attack that day. Muzhin didn't have a lot of strong points to her personality, but her skill in pouring dirty water at others were one of a kind. Towards this, Bai Yan just had to hand it to this old hag. Jun Tian, you wife. First shot an examining look over to Ho Chui Chui, her brows raised. This girl doesn't seem special at all. Is she really the one who saved Huan Yin? Growing doubtful, the madam then shifts her attention over to Bai Yan when she became highly startled by the air around the woman in red. Girl, what's your name? This lassie, why does she seem so familiar? Have I seen her somewhere before? It's not just the wife who's getting this sensation. The husband was also getting this feeling, and wanted to grasp at that fleeting memory. Wife, have you noticed this girl's contour is very similar to Yunfang's first son? Hesitant in his tone, Chief Wu Wei whispers to his wife. It's not just the girl's contour. In fact, those eyes were so close that it's giving this couple déjà vu, confusing their eldest son for some reason. Ho Chui was still waiting for the chief and his wife to speak with her. But despite the long wait, no conversation ensued. Rather, the entire focus fell onto Bai Yin, and this irritated the imposter exponentially. No way. I won't allow anyone to take away my glory. Just when the fake wanted to throw herself into the conversation, Huanin decides to speak up again and get things clear. Uncle, aunt, this Miss Bai Yin is the one who really saved me. Jun Tianyu showed an astonished look, her brow growing increasingly wary. Elder Muzhen, what is the meaning of this? Sneering like always. That's what I was trying to explain. This woman over there is pretending to be Miss Ho and take her place. They've even managed to deceive Huan Yin into believing their lies despite not knowing what that woman on the boat looked like. A good play's opening too. Muzhen had cut off the girl's word again. Besides, if she really was your savior, then why would she collude with the dragons? What's more, my disciple has already investigated the matter. The name written on the invite slip is Ho Chui, and that's a fact. It's the key evidence. That's right, Lunger already finished off the one selling the invite slips. There won't be anyone able to prove it's this bitch who was there that day. No invite slip, no right to board the dragon boat. The plan is flawless, and the chief will know who to trust. Ahumph. Making a dry cough, Chief Wu Wei turns to Bai Yin. Miss, do you have anything to say? Perhaps it's due to the similarity this girl shared with his son, but the father instinctively wanted to give the benefit of the doubt to an unknown stranger. It's pointless to say anything. Better yet, why don't I let others be the judge instead? Raising the corner of her lip, she openly grins at the approaching figure that's coming their way in the distance. Walking behind the leading familiar individual was a fatty, panting hard like he's about to have an anxiety attack. The main witness to this story clearly didn't want to be here despite being the key to everything. Mu Lung, student, did not think much of the new arrivals at first, but that came to a stumbling halt as soon as she recalled who the fatty was. Croaking like a damaged frog, panic instantly grips the girl's heart. This fatty is still alive? Damn it! She harshly clenched that fist in a vain attempt to quell that flame. As long as I don't admit anything, then these people can't do anything to me. Sun Huan, why are you here? The mother asks her son after noticing his arrival. The womanizer clicked that haughty tongue, disappointed in his parents' folly. If I didn't come, then are you and father going to be blinded by these people? Mu Lung, I never thought you to be such a person. I don't know what you're talking about. Sensing the danger looming overhead, the once high-standing girl falters once again. Ho ho, sarcastic in his voice, the womanizer doesn't relent. Did you tell my father and mother that the girl who saved Huan Yin is this Ho Chui? But from what I know, she sold her invite slip to this merchant. So how could she have been on the dragon boat that day? Hearing the rock drop in her heart, Mu Lung fires her venomous gaze over to the fatty as a warning. If this man knows what's good for him, then he will deny everything. If he doesn't, then don't blame me for being ruthless. But unlike that day where he's nearly assassinated, the fat merchant was now a whole new person altogether. With backing, what did he need to fear? Immediately his resentful self began to spill everything. Second young master, the one who bought my invite slip that day is this woman. It's her. Pointing to Bai Yin. The fatty then stares coldly at the other party. But Elder Muzhen's apprentice found me, forcing me to paint out the contour of the lady that day. Under duress, I could only do as they demanded. However, I never expected them to take a stab at my life as soon as I was finished with that portrait. Please get justice for me. Mu Lung's complexion had gone deathly white, her feet instinctively taking a step backwards. It's still excusable if it was a mistaken identity, but if it's discovered that I deliberately threw a fake in despite knowing the truth, then it's a huge crime. Thinking of the consequences, she knew she must twist the story before it's too late. Lies. When did I do that to you? Sun Huan, don't listen to their nonsense. I don't know who this man is. To tell you the truth, Mulung, even without this man here today, just the fact that this lady is Bai Yan is enough for me to determine it's her that day. What did he mean by that? The high-standing girl didn't understand what's going on and lapsed out for a moment. A good play's opening 3. Just because she's Bai Yan? While Mulung was still trying to make sense of that statement, the womanizer had already come before Bai Yan's presence. His eyes were showing traces of grievance. Why did you cover your face that day? Is because you were afraid of me recognizing you. I actually couldn't be certain if it was really you on the dragon boat that day. But now that I've seen you in person, I'm absolutely certain without a doubt. He knows this woman beforehand? She was only skeptical at first, but now it's downright ugly in the face. Mulung simply couldn't expect them both to know each other, let alone be able to make a reunion in a situation like this. Mujin's expression wasn't looking good either. Seething with anger, the old beauty comments using the most sarcastic tone she could muster. So it's second young master's old lover. No wonder you would deceive your own parents. I know you are a philanderer, but what you are doing now will harm the Misty Fairy House. Shut up. Several loud shouts rang out at the same time. In addition to the Zhongnan and his younger brother Zhongbei, there's also the womanizer's own mother Jun Tianyu. The madam directly stepped in front of the old bitch's face and swung her hand to give a loud smacking slap. Out of respect for saving my eldest back then, I've endured your parade for all these years. Now you got the audacity to blemish my second son. You think I, as his mother, wouldn't know his personality the best? Even if he's more dastardly in his womanizing, he would never lie to me. Covering her own face, Mujin's eyes were filled with waves of loathsome anger. The womanizer as well, he was fuming right up to his head. If he wasn't so much weaker than this old hag then, he would have ran over himself to send a few slaps of his own. Mujin, are you trying to see me dead? If you say another word then don't blame me. Don't joke around. That year this ill-tempered girl nearly castrated me just for teasing her. Now someone is brave enough to say she's my lover? I still want to live a nice long life. Now that all the players are here, it's time we began the show. Turning to gaze down at Mujin with her frosty glare, Bai Yan's lip had arched into a devious smirk. It's actually quite easy to determine if that girl over there is Huan Yin's savior. Just have Sun Huan here ask her a few questions. Flabbergasted at the suggestion, the womanizer didn't get what's going on. Why have me ask her a few questions? What good would that do? But upon contact with Bai Yan's menacing gaze, the squeamish man hastened to carry out the task. If Yin Yin is opening her mouth then I can only begin. Making a few coughs to clear his throat. First off, what color of dress did you wear that day? Ho Chui Chui didn't answer, only making a bewildered look. What does this have to do with being Huan Yin's savior? Bai Yin too was going dark in the face. This man. He's still as shameless as ever. It looks like you can't answer my first question. The womanizer grew serious. Getting sweaty in the forehead. He Chui Chui had wanted to defend herself when she was cut off. Second question. What time did you board the ship? The boarding time of each participant should have been recorded in the books. The fact that Mujin and Mulung didn't bother to bring those up was very suspicious in itself. And sure enough, the imposter was left wordless. Fine then. The fact that you can't answer either of my questions is enough to tell me the answer I need. But as a benefit of a doubt, I will ask the third question, clearing his throat so his words couldn't be misheard. What method did you use to cure Huan Yin's condition? Now this time Ho Chui Chui knew the answer. Inwardly, she was very much relieved at her own luck. A good play's opening 4. I had you infuse your energy into Huan Yin's body, while I used my flames to clear her veins. With that, are you happy? That's right, that should be enough to prove my identity. Once I enter the Huan Manor and become their esteemed guest, I will have this bitch regret it for the rest of her life. Arching a cheeky smirk, Ho Chui Chui narrows her eye into a squint against the one she's trying to impersonate. Aha! The womanizer cheerfully nods at that. Your answer is very good indeed. But now would you mind showing us your flame to prove it? Going stiff before her cheekiness could bear fruit, Ho Chui Chui's proud demeanor instantly deflates. This time it's not only the imposter. Even Mu Lung was starting to fret, because they apparently forgot one crucial point. The imposter couldn't control her Dan fire. The womanizer didn't push it, only standing there patiently waiting. However, it was Elder Mujin who lashed out to make the situation worse. What are you still standing there for? Hurry and summon out your flame. All embarrassed in her face, Ho Chui Chui began to mutter incoherent words like a lost child. In the end she could only turn to the one who set this whole thing up for help. Mu Lung really wanted to smack the useless idiot. It's bad enough their whole plan was unraveling before the public. It's even worse when she's implicated, so why should she put her neck out for some pawn? Shifu, gnashing her teeth, the once high-standing girl squeamishly whispered into her teacher's ear. She can't use her Dan fire. Not able to use her Dan fire? Mujin's face changed greatly, finally understanding why their pawn would be so hesitant. How did you find someone like that? The old beauty hushes at her disciple, annoyed by the incompetence. Fortunately it's quite loud in this area due to the massive crowd, leaving them free to speak at low volume. Shamefully hanging her own head, Mu Lung fumbles those fingers nervously. The only fact keeping her from screaming out in frantic madness was the fact that her teacher's an elder. Even if the chief wants to punish someone after the fact, it will not be her, or at least not a severe one. It seems you have no ability to control a flame. The womanizer chuckles at the sight. If you can't control your flames, then tell me, how are you supposed to cure Huan Yin's condition? Well, the last bit finally shattered the last bit of defense in Ho Chui Chui's sanity, freaking out like a crazed madwoman. It's Mu Lung, it's her. She sought me out, and had me impersonate as Huan Yin's savior. This is not my fault, please let me go. In this moment there were no sound to be heard, only utter silence. For the few elders who helped Mujin earlier, these poor fools were left in complete shock. Not only did they help the wrong person, they also directly offended the genuine lady in the story. Jun Tianyu's wife, trembling all over from the rage brewing up inside, pointing her finger straight at Mu Lung in an accusing manner. You dare deceive me. In all the years I've been alive, I have never been played like so. Wu Wei, husband, you better punish these people severely, otherwise I will never return to the misty fairy house again. Pa! Flashing a flicker of panic, Mujin did what she knew best, and slapped her own student across the face. Immediately, that dainty beautiful cheek of the young maiden had swollen up with 5 big fingerprints. What have I been teaching you? Why are you trying to fool the chief and madam? Do you know your fault? Getting to her knee. Shifu, I know my wrong. Please have mercy on me. I felt dreadful inside knowing how horrible Huan Yin and Sun Huan womanizer felt inside after the incident. That's why I had Ho Chui Chui impersonate the real one. I really didn't know Miss Bai Yen is still alive. In other words, her actions were an act of mercy, rather than an act of deceit. It's also a good way to limit any accusation before anyone could make it. A good play's opening 5. Slowly raising the corner of her lips until it's a smirk, Bai Yin found it amusing to see the tearful Mu Lung trying to swing the story her way. Such shamelessness, this girl is a real eye-opener. Huh? Zhongnan older, sneered. Then how should we settle the fact that you tried to harm my disciple? Pressing down the murderous intent in her eyes, Mujin bites her lip in frustration. It's mainly a misunderstanding between Lung and your student, and I only acted because she's siding with the dragons. Since it has come to this, why don't we let the younger generation settle it among themselves? How about it? Shifu. A pang of delight envelopes Mu Lung's heart. Shifu means to have us fight. With my strength, I can definitely win the brawl against an Earth-rank cultivator. Heck, I can even kill her by claiming I misjudged the exchange and play innocent. It's exactly as the wretched girl believes. In order to blind the world to her true strength, Bai Yan's been withholding her aura, so others would believe her powers were so poor. I don't agree. Jun Tianyu wife, scoffs a laugh. Do you take me for a fool or something? You think I will believe your nonsense, just because of a few words you made up? Now you even have the audacity to attempt murder in my face. Although the girl was Zhongnan's apprentice, but it's obvious the strength between both are heaven and earth. To even propose such a duel was no different from trying to get the weaker one to die. The two brothers didn't have such a strong reaction compared to the madam. They're still able to remember the amazing momentum their disciple displayed earlier, when rushing over, so their hearts were less worried. Shifu, since someone wants to seek their own death, then why don't I oblige them? Strolling forward without a care in the world, Bai Yin was openly grinning like she's hooked the fish. If the woman kept refusing the duel, then Muzhen and her apprentice would continue to pressure for it. But to see how easily it was accepted, it's left them flabbergasted and didn't know how to take this. Did we misjudge her? This woman is not an earth rank. Poser! Mulung huffs a snort. The woman must be pretending, because she knows she couldn't cancel the duel. Nothing but a lowly earth rank, I will squash her like an insect. Yenner. Seeing how close his disciple was already to the opponent, Zhongnan couldn't resist the fear in his heart, and called out in concern, touching at the girl's shoulder. Let us handle this, you don't have to do this. That's right, he's still scared in the end. They've lost one apprentice already. Losing another one now would be more than what they could bear. Even if it means not being an elder anymore, the two brothers would rather choose that outcome. But in the end, Bai Yin take the gesture of goodwill and push the hand away. Her figure was stoic and powerful against the flowing breeze, indicating the strong-willed nature of her character. I'll ask one last time. Are you sure you want to challenge me to a duel of life and death? Yes. Clenching her fist, Mulung decisively states her decision. Life and death. Muzhen, on the other hand, felt faintly disturbed inside, after getting the answer she sought for her student. The old beauty should be happy right now, yet only worry filled her polluted heart. For the entire show, the only one not affected at all was the womanizer. Sun Huan found it rather amusing, and even hilarious even. This old hag. Can't she even tell Bai Yin is not what she seems to be? 3 years ago the lassie was already at the middle level of the king rank. She might even be a monarch rank if I'm not mistaken. All of a sudden, the splitting and painful memory of having his balls kicked out by the hot-headed girl once again came back. Out of instinct for survival and procreation, the womanizer subconsciously hid behind his parents for protection. I'll let you have 3 moves. Provoking in her demeanor, Bai Yin smirks like a superior being. If it was the usual ordeal, then she would have made it quick and decisive. But this wasn't the usual stuff, was it? This was an act of revenge and venting for her 2 new shifis. For that reason alone, this good student was willing to spend some more time toying with the foe. Impudent. Cocking a satirical snicker, Mulung takes the initiative and draws her sword. Leaping forward at breakneck speed, she ruthlessly slashes down at the opponent's head without mercy. A good play's opening 6. Stationary in her pose, Bai Yin did not budge an inch. For those that's unaware or too blind to see, it would appear like the woman's lost her wits and couldn't move those legs at all. Mulung definitely fell into the foolish category. Smirking sinisterly, she was so overjoyed when her sword made contact that she actually broke out laughing. However, the next sensation to hit her wrist shattered the delusion in her head, for the impact from the slash felt like it's hitting a rock. In fact, it was so bad that the blade now had a huge dent at the midsection. Stunned beyond recognition, the impudent wench glances down at the source of her dismay. To her horror, the longsword was being blocked off by a single hand. To be specific, it's Bai Yan's hand. There's not a drop of blood from the blade touching the skin. Likewise, the onlooking crowds were also left speechless. This included the 2 brothers who were ready to dash in to help their student. And as always, the only one to stand out in this picture was the womanizer. His hearty laugh filled with bemused tears were like slaps against Mulung's pride. Feeling a trickle of sweat coming down her side, Mulung in her frantic state refuses to believe the truth. Waving her sword again, the impudent wench makes another swing at Bai Yan's shoulder and causes her dress to slit open in that area, revealing the lovely shoulder and partial undergarment underneath for all to see. Though the important parts were perfectly covered, But the mere fact that the womanizer could get a glimpse of that amazing flesh from such beauty was enough to give him a boner. This applied to a lot of the younger males. As always, the tougher the catch, the more delectable it was when they finally get something, even if it's just a tease. Furrowing her brow at this, Bai Yin peers over to her side in discontent, knowing full well the ogling eyes coming her way. I'm so foolish. I forgot my clothes aren't protected, and I really liked this dress too. That comment immediately warranted a wave of curses at her from the female gender. Really? You're worrying about your dress when your body just handled a razor-sharp sword, and is practically flashing to all the men? No words could be said at this incredulous scene. The hearts of the males were pounding with excitement like it's about to pop out and drop to the floor. It's too exhilarating of a show to see someone so strong and so attractive. I had wanted to let you have 3 moves before I begin. Unfortunately for you, you've ripped my dress. Getting dangerously cold in her eyes. So, I will no longer give you that opportunity. Bang! Finally retaliating, Bai Yan's hand firmly comes down at Mu Lung's head, popping it and blowing all of the innards out like a watermelon. Brain, blood, bone. Everything that came out was repulsive as it stained the floor red with its content. No! Seeing her precious student fall in combat, Muzhen flew into a fitting rage. Resentment, cruelty, hatred. All that one could sum up in a situation like this was showing in those eyes. You dare kill my disciple. I will not spare you. Boom. Breaking out everything a high-level monarch rank could muster. Muzhen wants to pummel the foe with her punch that's infused with all her might. Unfortunately for this old beauty, Zhongnan older, knew this and immediately stepped in front of Bai Yin to block off the attack. You want to harm my disciple in front of my face? Do you think I'm dead or something? Bang! 2 fists met, forcing Muzhen to falter backwards like the previous exchange again. There's venom in the old woman's eye right now, like a snake trying to bite its enemy to death. Zhongnan. If it was only Zhongnan around, then this venomous old hag would never back off, even if it's in front of the chief and the madam. However, there's also the younger brother Zhongbei to the side. If the both of them united and worked together, then she could never come out on top in a direct confrontation. Sweeping a glance over from Muzhen to her 2 shifus, Bai Yin comments to stop this. Shifus, let me handle this for you. Whatever grudge you hold against this old hag, your student, I will get it back for you. Blinking their eyes, the 2 seniors didn't know what else to say. Sniffling, water quickly swelled out of their tear ducts due to the happiness they felt. Bai Yin was only just starting with the grand show she prepared. Killing Mu Lung merely counted as the appetizer to force Muzhen to experience the same pain she imparted on the 2 fellas. The main course was yet to come. Yinner, are you also a monarch rank? After a moment of hesitation, the younger Zhongbei decides to ask after working up the courage to get the truth. During the moment when the girl retaliated, the energy fluctuation definitely exceeded an earth rank and gave away the secret. I'm sorry for deceiving you 2 before. I'll be sure to give you a proper explanation later. Bai Yin sounded apologetic. The 2 old seniors treated her with sincerity, so the guilt could not be denied. A good play's opening 7. A current of warmth filled Bai Yan's heart because she deceived them, yet they're still willing to believe herself. In comparison, the rest of the onlookers were gawking in frenzy over the astonishing news. This lassie is a monarch rank master? Oh Yin Yin, you are a monster. The womanizer grumpily comments. You were only a king rank 3 years ago. How did you reach a new stage altogether in this short period? At first the people only assumed the woman must be an old lady who maintains her image well like Muzhen did. But it's apparently not the case based on Sun Huan's womanizer suggestive words. A 20-something years old held powers equivalent to an elder of the Misty Fairy House. If that's not a genuine monster, then what else could she be? No genius could match that talent. Not even the greatest younger generation of this age. Chief, Muzhen whirls herself to face the Lord. Lunger is my student. Just because she's at odds with her doesn't mean she can kill my Lunger. Isn't this too much? Chief Wu Wei frowns. They had an agreement beforehand, so I'm not in a situation to intervene. What does he mean by not right to intervene? This old fart is clearly abandoning my apprentice because of the talent displayed by that bitch over there. Fuming with disgruntlement inside, Mujin hated her lack of ability. As much as she would love to tear the perpetrator to pieces, she could do nothing but swallow the indignation. Mujin, you should be praying for yourself instead of worrying about your already dead disciple. If I find out you are involved with today's case, then you can forget about living. Jun Tianyu wife threatens, her eyes sharp and dangerous. It looks like the elder council needs a good cleaning. Dirt like this one is no longer needed. Mujin's heart shuddered at the intimidating threat. Bowing her head, she firmly pressed away that hatred so others couldn't see. Yes, madam. You go back to the council hall first. Without my permission, you're not allowed to step outside. She's trying to put me under house arrest. If it comes to that, then I won't have a say anymore in the future. Why are you still standing there for? Hurry and scram. The man barked, indicating she's done with the old hag. Knowing she's done for here, Mujin sucks in a deep breath and left without another word. In tow, she also took away the group from her side, who had the misfortunate fate of meeting the same end as her. Bai Yin, on the other hand, didn't intend to let this side, giving a signal to Tsingyi. She intends to finish things even if the rest didn't want to. However, Zhongnan, older, suddenly stepped in front and blocked the dragoness's path. Shifu, puzzled, she asked. Wait a minute first. I have something I don't understand. Once I figure out what it is, then we can kill that witch. It won't be too late, then, even if she gets some time. Clenching his old fist, the senior explains. There are some things he must figure out. He didn't have enough strength before, so he couldn't complain. But now that he does, he would never let Mujin escape. Nodding in understanding, Bai Yin wanted to inquire for more details, to only realize this was no place to be doing this. It's the open public. A lot of the onlookers would be able to easily eavesdrop on their conversation. Mississippi. Slowly coming forward, Jun Tianyu warmly holds onto Bai Yan's hand and smiled warmly. Can I ask, what other family members do you have? Frowning at the strange and sudden question, she nevertheless replied in kind. I have many relatives, grandfather, uncles, cousins, and a brother. Oh, what about your parents? I don't know who my father is, and my mother has been missing for years. The madam and her husband promptly exchanged a meaningful look with each other. Don't know who the father is and the mother's missing? The fact that they got a very good image of Bai Yin as soon as they met was a huge indicator. Plus those eyes. It resembles their son Yin Feng way too much. Therefore, it's understandable why they would think in that direction. Miss Bai Yin, I heard from others that were you able to cure Huan Yin's condition? Might I ask you to have a look at my son, Yin Feng's illness as well? I know it's asking too much of you, but consider it a favor. The chief asks ahead of his wife. A good play's opening 8. It's not that Chief Wu Wei didn't believe in Bai Chongfeng's talent and ability. After all, it's there for all to see. However, the fact that the old bastard gave his son the equivalent of a death sentence was an unacceptable assessment. What illness of the heart needs a cure for the heart? He's a father, and as a father he would pursue any leads, regardless of how slim the chances are. You went to Bai Chongfeng's place again? Did he promise to come? Jun Tianyu wife asks with a furrowed forehead. The husband smiles bitterly at his wife's question. Yun Feng's illness hasn't been getting any better after all these years, so I couldn't bear it any longer, and went to find that man. Though the medicine sect have been at odds with us, but Bai Chongfeng didn't reject my request for a meeting this time. I presume it's because he found his granddaughter recently, and is in a better mood. Anyways, let's have the lady here look at our son first. Whatever happens, we will deal with the hurdles as it come. At this moment Bai Yin was stroking her chin in contemplation, instead of listening to the couple. Grandfather's here? Crap. I must get my hands on the blood vine now before grandfather sees me. Otherwise he would be dreadfully worried if he doesn't find Xiaochen around. I can go have a look at your son, but, beaming a flash in her eyes, I want a seed of the blood vine in your possession. Originally her plan was to go steal the actual blood vine from the main vault. However, this opportunity was even better. Okay, it's a deal. Elated inside, The madam readily pulls Bai Yin along towards their home. Regardless of you being able to cure Yin Feng's illness, I will still be grateful to you. In comparison though, the others present weren't taking it so well, and were exchanging looks between themselves. In their urgency, the elders all turned towards the chief for help. Unexpectedly, the man didn't move, and remained inactive like he's giving the go-ahead. How can the madam just hand out the bloodvine seed? And the chief agreed so quickly too. Chief madam. It was then a panicking voice cuts in from the rear. The young master is acting up again. It's very serious this time, and he's attacking anyone who gets too close. What? Nearly fainting on the spot. The poor mother struggles to keep her balance due to those shaky legs. Quick, we need to go back. Let's go. The chief as well. His eyes were very urgent and hurried to support his wife. Together, arm in arm, the couple quickly headed for their home. Yenner, let's go and see too. Zhongnan sounded anxious as well, just that his worried state was less urgent due to the calm and fixated gaze of his student. Perhaps this precious disciple of mine really can cure Yin Feng's illness. Inside the misty fairy house, the most majestic and magnificent structure had to be the main home of the chief and his wife. As soon as she barged into the estate, the echoing cries of a painful man could be heard even from afar. That's how much suffering the patient was going through. In hindsight, Bai Yin too felt a strange discomfort in her heart over that sound. It's as if someone's holding her heart and tightly ripping it around. Yinner, what's wrong? Zhongnan, older, was the first noticed the woman's shortness of breath. Bai Yin did not answer, only rushing forward towards the source like a single second might spell a fate she doesn't want to see. A good play's opening 9. When Jun Tianyu knocked open the door to her son's room, this poor mother's first glimpse of his son's state was a horror fest that nearly caused her to faint at the sight. Thankfully there were others around. Catching his wife in mid-collapse, Chief Wu Wei hurries to make eye contact with his people. What are you all waiting for? Hurry and go subdue my son before he hurts himself. Taken aback at first, the elders who followed right from behind quickly ran forward in an effort to drag the poor patient to the bed. However, it's unsure where Yin Feng managed to get the strength, but he swung and flipped like a mad beast at the group, pushing everyone back and screeching like a disturbed animal. One of you come support my wife. I'll do it myself. Seeing how the others are failing miserably, the husband decides to take matters into his own hands and subdue his son. Hold it. Jun Tianyu flew into a rage and broke free from the two helping elders. Seething in her voice, Wu Wei, if you dare hurt my son then I'll die with you. But wife, our son's already fallen into a frenzy state, if we don't stop him now. Troubled, the poor man didn't know what to do against this conflicting situation. Normally this mother's demeanor tended to lean towards the calm and decisive side, however. That always changes whenever it involves her eldest son. I don't care anymore. I only know you people want to hurt my son. Burning with fire in her eyes, this mother gave glares of death to those around herself. Back then it was all of you who prevented Yin Feng from being with the one whom he loves. If it wasn't for that then he wouldn't have turned into his current state. You're the ones who hurt my son. After so many years you bunch still want to hurt him some more? Wife, listen and let me explain. When the chief grabbed onto her wife's hand, he was shocked to discover the heavy shaking across that arm. Those eyes weren't the same ones he's so familiar with either. It's something completely foreign to him, like a foe facing a ring of dangerous creatures. Let go of me, you bastard. Jun Tianyu flings away her husband's grip. What does it matter if Yin Feng wants to be with the woman he loves? Why are you people stopping him? Who the hell is that goddess? Based on what can you people do this to my son? The husband didn't know how to respond to his wife's complaints. He's always been supportive of her decisions throughout their marriage, the only exception being their son's marriage. It's his mistake, and the main reason their son has turned into this decrepit state. But regret was pointless at this stage. The charismatic young man from back then would never return. Done with them all, the poor mother stumbles forward without a care for everyone else. Yin Feng, it's mother. Do you know me? As long as you can recover then mother will decide for you. A good play's opening 10. Sucking in a deep breath, Bai Yin had to work desperately hard to keep in the unease in her heart. All of you go out. Taken aback by the strong reaction, the chief eventually nodded. Okay, give us a shout if you need anything. I will have my people do as you order. After saying this, the man then began to head for the outside with her wife in hand. But just before he could step through the doorway, another call came out. Wait, halting in his step. Is there anything else? I need some herbs. Within half an hour, bring them all to me. Tell me the names. I'll have them ready by that time. Chief Wu Wei has decided. Since his wife was willing to believe this girl, then he too would believe her. Within the Mu Manor, Mujin was currently sitting on the sandalwood chair with her eyes showing extreme resentment. Elder. A shadowy figure drifts through the door and takes to his knee. I'll ask you one question. Mujin eye flickered with a frosted tint. That day, did you guys really finish off and kill that woman? I want the truthful answer. She's not going to forget the chief's word back there about how their eyes look very similar. Adding in the fact that the bitch's face held such strong resemblance, it's hard to deny the wariness creeping up inside. Elder. Musing over his answer, the shadowy figure appears tied between something. That day the woman was seriously injured by us. There's no way she could have survived. Mujin's complexion sank again. When you pursued her, was she pregnant? Trembling so slightly, so in the end the truth got leaked. It's like this, Elder. That day we could see she was about 8 months pregnant. All things considered, that child could not have survived with the mother. Even if the child did live, it wouldn't have lasted long. And why was such a crucial piece of information not reported to me? Slamming her fist down at the table, the old beauty instantly blew apart the furniture and allowed the tea splash across the floor. Because the child is bound to die, so I. Bang! Sending a direct kick over, she sends the shadow tumbling to the ground. Those eyes radiated hatred like a bat out of hell. How dare you hide this from me? If you are so sure she is dead, then you don't need to live either. Due to Chief Wu Wei's sudden inquiry about the woman from years ago, this ruthless and black-hearted, which did what any evil villain would do. She murdered anyone involved with that case. This one who just returned was out in a mission, so that's how the individual managed to survive till today. But in the end, the fate of death still befalls the shadow's head. Piercing the man's heart with her blade, Mujin claps her hand to summon a servant. Drag this corpse away and bury him in a mass grave. Yes, Elder. An elderly old man slowly emerged from the side, his face indifferent and cold when eyeing the pool of blood. Lifting up the body as told, he went about with his business as usual. It's just that this time around, instead of a smooth burial like the previous times, there was a ghostly figure who tailed him and stole the body away once he wasn't looking. Regarding all this, Mujin naturally didn't know nor expect. In her wretched head, there's only the burning hatred for revenge against Bai Yin. To think that slut bore the young lord's child. She's nothing but a commoner. Based on what can she have his blood? Gnashing her teeth in jealous hate, the old beauty rubs her own belly in utter resentment. And there's that blasted daughter of hers. No wonder she's such an eyesore. As soon as I saw her. A slut would always give birth to a slut, only knowing how to seduce the opposite sex. A good play's opening 11. Elder. Coming through the door, the senior who earlier went to dispose of the body had returned. I have buried the corpse within the usual spot as you instructed. It won't be long before the wild creatures in the forest dig into him. There is no need to pay the subject any more heed. Mujin calmly nods to affirm she's got the message. Now that I'm being nominally under house arrest by the chief, I want you to pay closer attention to that side. If there's anything at all from the estate, I want to know about it. Yes, Elder. Sounding hesitant, the senior decides to ask what's bothering him anyways. Regarding the girl from back then who tried to seduce the young lord, is she really just a commoner? Of course, Mujin snarled at this. Even if she isn't a commoner by the odd chance, the girl couldn't be anything more than a small clan's daughter. How can someone of that low blood be worthy of our young lord? I bet she knew his identity beforehand, and did everything to climb into the bed. That's how she got pregnant in the first place. Someone who only schemes to become the mistress of our misty fairy house deserves to be crucified for their sins. What I did is an act of mercy, do you understand me? Apparently this old hag had forgotten her own place in life. She's only an elder, a subordinate of the main ruling house. The very fact that she's trying to dictate who or what's permissible to interact with her liege was in itself a treasonous act. The old senior didn't object or raised any more doubt to the woman. He didn't participate in the matter from back then, so he doesn't understand the full picture. However, an ominous sensation kept nagging in the back of his head, like this wouldn't turn out well in the coming days. You can leave me for now, I want to rest. Closing her eyes, Mujin showed a wary tiredness on her face. Perhaps it's due to her own student facing a miserable death, or it's the fact that she no longer has a place in the Misty Fairy House's controlling body. Regardless of the reason for both, it's all bad news. Yes, elder. Arching his fist, the old man respectfully bid his farewell with a worried face before disappearing from this courtyard. Meanwhile, at the same time, over at the main residence of the chief's home, Yunfeng wasn't attacking everyone within sight anymore. Rather, he's now all quiet lying there against the bed, and even regained some of his handsome features from all those years ago. You, who are you? Bai Yin points her finger in an uncertain way at the man's forehead. He's clearly just a stranger. Why is he able to make my heart feel so painful? Perhaps it's her voice, or that face for some reason, but the conscious young lord was slowly closing his eyes like he's overcome with a wave of drowsiness. The person's not feeling weak or anything. Instead, it's a sense of calm that's allowing him to get some rest after going crazy earlier. I will definitely cure you, maybe then I will get some answers. In that moment when she said this, Bai Yin nearly couldn't hold her emotions in check. She has her suspicions, and it's really difficult to find any flaw with her theory. Nevertheless, she couldn't just jump the gun without proof. This time I need to refine an 8th grade medicinal Dan pill. He's been far too gone, and for far too long. Only a supreme Dan pill can suppress that inner demon within his heart now. Bai Yin was by all intent purpose a genius when it came to alchemy. However, refining such a high-level pill was a first for her in this world. There are risks involved, and it won't do her good if that comes to pass. Taking out her personal cauldron from the storage bag, the woman was just about ready to begin when a knocking from the door interrupted her session. Stern in that voice, "Come in." At her beckoning, a young maid slowly opened the door and strolled in with a tray in hand. The young lass walked extremely slowly, before eventually placing the item on the table. "Miss, this is the medicinal ingredient you asked for. I know, you can leave now." Giving an approving nod, she seems pleased by what's displayed before herself. "Go inform everyone that none is allowed to come inside afterwards when I start, regardless of what they hear or see. Understand?" Refining an 8th grade Dan pill was no laughing matter, and would surely rouse a series of heavenly thunders from the sky. Thankfully, this was not a 9th level phenomenon. Otherwise, her current body would never be able to endure that destructive force. Bai Yin still hasn't forgotten how she died in her previous life back on Earth. Anyone would be traumatized after being struck down by thousands of watts of electricity. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill. 1. Faintly exhaling the dirty air in her lungs, Bai Yin allows her mind to drift away into the deeper parts of her memories as she closed those eyes. In an instant, the long and difficult recipe for the supreme Dan pill emerges, allowing her mind to go through the ingredients in detailed precision. Jerking them open again after achieving what she wants, the woman moved with fire and wind. "Before I didn't dare to attempt such a high-level recipe, but now I will, and I must succeed. There's not much choices right now. It's either she succeeds and get to the bottom of her discomfort, or give up and lose this crucial trail that suddenly befall her way." Yin Feng. Inside another bedchamber, Jun Tianyu had just regained her consciousness after fainting from earlier. Climbing up, this mother's first instinct was to ask about her eldest son's condition in her frantic state. "How is Yin Feng?" Pained by the nails digging in his skin from his wife's firm grip, Chief Wu Wei tries hard to look as calm as possible in order to avoid throwing his wife over the edge. Don't worry, my wife, our son is fine. Miss Bai Yin is already seeing to his illness. I'm sure it won't be long until the demon in his heart is gone, and we can all start anew. Really? The mother's expression instantly brightens. Even if she knew the man's words are nothing but deceiving lies, it's still something she wants to believe. I'm going to see Yin Feng. Wait a minute. Seeing his wife's going to get out of bed, he promptly made a grab for her shoulder to stop this. Wait, don't move and rest for now. The lady stated that we mustn't interrupt her session during the operation, so let's wait here while she does her work. Even this man didn't know why he would be so trusting of a stranger to the point where he would entrust the well-being of his son to them. Okay. Repeating the word several times over to herself in a muttering tone, Jun Tian, you could not hold in her joy. Unlike the other healers and alchemists who came before, Bai Yin was the only one who didn't turn their heads as soon as they saw Yin Feng's condition. Outside the territories of the Misty Fairy House, the closest terrain was a deep ravine that cut off the mainland from this part of the continent. As a result, those who wished to enter the place by regular means would need to traverse a large stretch of barren landscape in order to reach the destination. Yenner is unthinkable. How can she not come back and tell us something so major? Huffing and puffing, the usually calm second Shifu Ren-Yi appeared quite annoyed in his voice. If we didn't interrogate little Rice and force him to spill the beans, then, who knows what sort of danger that girl would be in? The third brother Chiu Shu Rong nods in agreement, and cocked a bitter smile of his own. Maybe Yan Yin only did this because she knew the Holy Land's relationship with the Misty Fairy House isn't that harmonious? But really, that blasted girl needs to start learning on how to use the powers behind herself. She's too headstrong for her own good, always running up front and shouldering everything on her own without looking for help. Normally all three brothers would come after getting wind of this, but since their oldest brother Zhengqi was in the middle of making a breakthrough, only these two had come. There's around 1,000 miles before we reach the Misty Fairy House. By my estimate, we should be there by nightfall. Ren Yi's eyes scanned the horizon with a fierce glint. If my precious student suffers any indignation, or is harmed by those people, growling like a threatening dog, I will make them pay regardless of their forces or status. As an elder of the Holy Land, how could the second brother not know the virtues of those from the other power? And considering her own student's proud nature, plus amazing talent, it's almost a certain some of those conceited bastards would try something against her. That's something he won't allow. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill too. While the two elders of the Holy Land were making their way over at air-splitting speed, the sky around the main residences of the Misty Fairy House had fallen into a gloomy storm. Jun Tianyu and her husband remained seated inside the main reception hall while they waited. Though the hope was slim, the couple didn't want to let it go. But as always, there are bound to be some who simply doesn't want the world to have a moment of peace sometimes. Chief Madam, Elder Muzhin has come. Rushing inside was a young maid, her face flustered and urgent. What? The mistress of the house flew into a rage at the announcement, slamming her hand against the table. Didn't I instruct my people to watch over her estate? How did she step out of her home without them knowing? Then before the maid could get another word in, an eerie laugh cuts in on their conversation from the front. It's annoying and filled with sarcasm. Madam, why are you so angry for? I'm only here to leave a few words, that's all. Clenching her fist, Jun Tianyu glares fire at the arrogant woman who barged into her home. What do you want to say? Among those part of the Elder Council, Muzhin was indeed one of a kind, so it's not entirely surprising that she could slip through the observers. What did surprise this madam, though, was the fact that this old wench would violate her orders. I've heard you are letting that girl treat the young lord, and that you're leaving them alone with no one to observe? Squinting her eyes into a narrow slit, the old hag sneered derisively. I don't know if I should say you're stupid, or just simple-minded. How could you just believe some stranger would suddenly waltz into the frame and cure an illness that even the lord of the medicine sect could not do? I bet she's in there harming the patient right now. Muzhin, Jun Tianyu snaps, enraged by the derogatory words coming her way. I don't want to argue with you right now, so get out of my sight. In light of that, the old hag did not leave. In fact, he's dismissing the death glare and turned towards the husband. Chief, do you really believe the girl's appearance is some kind of coincidence? Unlike his wife, who's quickly losing all reasoning, Chief Wu Wei stayed cool in his demeanor that's expected of a ruler. What are you trying to imply? Spill it. Then I'll tell you the truth. Muzhin's lip curved into a faint smirk. That girl's appearance reminds me of a person. Who? Dubious in his face, the man coldly asks. The woman who seduced the young lord and then abandoned him, that woman. Clank. Due to the bombshell of a news, the man had inexplicably knocked over the teacup next to him when jolting up. You mean she is my granddaughter? He wasn't able to spell the last word out of his mouth, because the poor man's shaking too terribly to mince words. Don't be too happy yet, Chief. I'm only saying the girl might be that woman's daughter. Also, I never said anything about it being the young lord's child either. She might just be an imposter, and here out to gain our favor. That's not possible. The girl's eyes are way too similar to my son's. She must be Yin Feng's daughter. She must be my. Endless joy swept the man off his feet, sending him fluttering all around like he's floating on air. If Bai Yen is really my granddaughter, then the Misty Fairy House will have an heir. So what if she has similarities with the eye? This world is filled with children. Having a few that look similarly close is nothing to be surprised about, nor does it prove anything. As far as I know, that woman from back then would sleep with any men she comes across. Even if this girl is the young lord's daughter, what good would such an offspring be when it's coming from such bad blood? The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill 3. Yes, I haven't checked it yet, so how can I be so certain of that girl being my granddaughter? What to do? Our Misty Fairy House doesn't have anything to verify one's lineage. Wait, there's Bai Changfeng. I can ask him to help once he arrives at our door. After some brooding, Chief Wu Wei figured this would be the best option. Haha, Jun Tian, you couldn't help but cackle at her foe's shamelessness. So your meaning is the girl came to our Misty Fairy House in order to deceive us and get close to Yin Feng. Is that what you're implying? That's right. Muzhin's eye flickered with a strange light at the idea. Her purpose is perhaps to dilute the leading family's blood. With the power she would gain, the slut would then become a person of extreme influence overnight. Do you really think us for a fool? Miss Bai Yin is a monarch rank. With her talent at such a young age, every power out there would be vying to take her in. Why does she need to deceive me or my husband? The madam didn't believe a single word coming out of the other side's mouth. Perhaps others don't know this, but as a mother, Jun Tian, you could visibly sense the disgusting motive hiding behind this old hag's face. Ha ha ha. Laughing at that remark, Muzhin's sniggering became derisive and mocking. Do you really believe that she is a monarch rank? In this world, there are plenty of treasures that can instantly boost or hide one's power. For a period, that is. Her face turning a heinous dark that showed how evil her insides were. And I'm certain she only defeated my disciple thanks to said treasure. I do not believe she's talented at all. Unable to take this farce anymore, the mother hatefully flings her own teacup at the foul-mouthed granny, who's in love with her own son. It missed, of course, after Muzhin swung to the side, causing the content inside, and the container itself to splatter into many pieces after hitting the wall. Compared to you, I would rather believe the young miss than you. Scram. I don't want to see at my home. Elder Muzhin, why are you still standing there for? Chief Wu Wei was now frowning at the unwelcome guest. Do you want to see my wife's death or something? He's the husband here. To see his own wife clenching that chest like her heart's in unmeasurable pain, the man would of course be unhappy. Humph. I'm only trying to get even for my poor student. She has been wronged dearly by being killed. Jun Tianyu was about to go mad after hearing that comment. She's absolutely livid. If not for the fact that her eldest son was supposedly saved by this old hag years ago, then she would have run over and ripped out that tongue. Boom! Abruptly, a struck of lightning suddenly came smashing down in the general area of the patient's room, causing a wave of fright to the occupants inside the hall. By the time the three of them ran outside to investigate, the darkened sky had already changed. There's now a huge stormy cloud spewing purplish streaks of electricity down to the ground. "Young lord," Muzhin exclaims, her legs shaky and her face a ashen white. She wants to kill Bai Yin for what she did, and she also hates the parents for whatever reason. But this old beauty could never hate the man she's been secretly coveting. "Madam, this is the sort of person you brought back into your home." Swinging her death glare at the mistress of the house, the old beauty radiated a murderous intent that covered her whole existence. Apparently unrequited love could blind even the most vile and wicked of hearts. Despite being non-related to the matter, Muzhin made it sound like she's the one in charge of Yin Feng's safety, and not his own parents. Ignoring whatever that rude comment was about, Jun Tianyu's first reaction was to head for her son's room. Sadly, due to the numbness in her legs, the poor woman could only rely on her husband to help support herself. What is going on? Humph, of course it's that slut trying to murder the young lord. Grinding her molars in frustrated anger, Muzhin's eye had turned a bloodshot red. If not for you, if not for the both of you, then none of this would have happened. If anything happens to my poor Yin Feng, then I won't let either of you go. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill 4. Due to the huge commotion of the rumbling in the sky, everyone within the vicinity had come out to see what's happening. To their horror, like the first three, they're all looking up in shock at the crazy storm brewing in their view. This is an alchemic phenomenon created by someone refining an 8th grade Dan pill. One of the more experienced and knowledgeable alchemists explained after seeing the signs. Slightly frowning, Chief Wu Wei turns to the person and asked, "Are you sure it's an alchemic phenomenon? It should be most likely." The alchemist himself also sounded somewhat uncertain. Years ago, when Lord Bai from the medicine sect was making his breakthrough into the 8th level, he also produced a similar phenomenon. I happened to be passing by the place, so I managed to witness it firsthand. It's just that compared to the trial from back then, this one seems more powerful and more destructive. "Then would my son be in danger?" Jun Tianyu, wife, asks with worry in her eyes. "No," the alchemist shakes his head. "I heard only the one making the pill would be affected by the danger, and everyone else in the vicinity would be fine." "Then what about Miss Bai Yin? She's only a monarch rank. Would she be able to withstand an alchemic trial of such caliber?" the madam urgently asks, afraid for the worst. This I'm not sure either. Back then when Lord Bai made his breakthrough, the man was already at an extremely high level. The young lady is too fresh, so I'm unable to discern the outcome." Heaving a long sigh, the alchemist shakes his head in disappointment at his own inability. "Then what are the consequences if she fails?" Biting her lower lip, the madam almost didn't want to know the answer. She's not an alchemist, so it's not all that surprising for her to not know the details. Besides, how many 8th grade alchemists are there? Aside from Bai Yan's grandfather and her shifus from the Holy Land, there are only a few other hermits hiding up in the mountains and such. Stumbling for a safe answer, the alchemist decides to give the cold hard truth anyways. The soul will be destroyed. That's right, the consequences of not being able to resist the trial would be the destruction of their soul. Faltering back and almost losing her balance, Jun Tianyu's face immediately showed a layer of pain, like someone just poured acid into her heart. "This won't do. I must see the girl in person before I can be at ease." "Wife, you mustn't be impulsive." Chief Wu Wei hurries to stop the woman. "If you rush in now, then it will definitely affect the lady. Even if she wasn't in danger, she would be after your interruption." Halting in her footstep, the madam unwillingly clenches her fist in frustration. "Ha, 8th grade Dan pill." Muzhin sneered sarcastically. "A 20-something girl can refine an 8th grade product? If she can do that, then I'm a 9th grade alchemist, ha ha ha." That's it. Turning all of her rage and resentment into one single blow, the madam directly flings her fist right into the impudent old wench's face and sends her spinning into midair. Then, as a finishing blow before the bitch could land back down, she jumps right up to end it with an elbow slam that left a crackling small crater in its wake. Puking blood from her mouth at a profuse rate, Muzhin looked up in dismay at her assailant. She never thought that with her status and power the other side would dare lay a hand on herself. This was especially true when there are so many people around themselves. Likewise, the other members of the Misty Fairy House were looking over in stunned astonishment. In their view, the image of the madam was that of a virtuous wife who's both gentle and kind. Never in their wildest dreams would they expect the woman to beat someone in open public. Climbing up after much struggle, Mujin makes a couple of heavy coughs before managing to regain her strength. Madam, which part of what I said there is wrong? There's no way she could be an 8th grade alchemist, nor are those flashes from the storm cloud ray all lightning bolts. Gnashing her teeth till it hurts, the old hag resented everything. From her own injury to the fact that she's being shamed before her peers. Anything that so much as moves was within her range of fire. What did that little slut do to earn the chief and his wife's trust so much? A voice suddenly cuts in from above. It's powerful and old of someone with experience in life. It looks like I came just in time. To think there would be another out there who is about to break into the 8th grade of their alchemic profession. Looks like there will be another of my level very soon in this world. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill 5. Mujin's face froze over. From what was a flaring, irritable expression, had turned into a look of disbelief, after catching a glimpse of who just barged into their conversation. Bai Changfeng? The person is actually the lord of the medicine sect. Bai Changfeng? Lord Bai, you're here? Chief Wu Wei heaves a sigh of relief at the sight of the old man. You mean to say you are certain that is the result of someone trying to refine an 8th grade Dan pill? Wouldn't you know it yourself? Pricking his brow at the odd question, the old grandpa looked rather baffled by this. This alchemist is your people. Why are you not aware of who's in there when you are their leader? But compared to the one I experienced years ago, during my first attempt at making a breakthrough into the 8th grade, this one is much more violent. That fact alone is enough for me to discern the recipe is at least in the upper tier. His lips had curved into a faint smile, oblivious to the fact that Mujin's complexion had turned a ghastly white over his statement. It seems my trip this time is not in vain. To be able to meet someone at my level is a true honor. Sighing, Chief Wu Wei shakes. But the one in there refining is only a monarch rank. Monarch rank? Bai Changfeng's calm attitude instantly changed into a fitting rage. How outrageous! How can a mere monarch rank's body endure the destructive force of the lightning strikes created by an alchemic trial? Is that person dead in the brain? The individual should be well over 60 by now. How could they not understand something so simple? The old man's body was practically shaking due to the frustration and irritation he felt. It's hard enough to meet another person at his cultivation level. It's even harder to meet an alchemist with as much insight. Now before he could even get to know the other party and have some verbal exchanges of knowledge, the other person's going to be struck down by their own folly? If the person inside somehow survives and come out of there, then I will definitely teach him a good lesson. Fortunately, Bai Changfeng didn't know the person in there was his own granddaughter. Otherwise the ones to face his ire right now would be these from the Misty Fairy House. It wouldn't be an exaggeration for him to openly declare war if that's the case. Making an awkward gesture, the chief sounded embarrassed in his voice. The one inside, she's not 60-something, she's only 20-something years old. 20-something years old? This time it was the old lord's turn to be taken aback. There is someone else in this world who is as talented as my granddaughter. My sweet granddaughter is only at the higher level of the king rank, and is capable of refining up to the 7th grade in her alchemy. To think there is someone just as great in that room right now, and is trying for an 8th grade. As far as he knows, Bai Yin was only at the king rank prior to the girl's departure for the demon realm, hence the reason why he couldn't connect the dots. A few months was too short of a period for most to make an advance like so. Lord Bai, Jun Ti on you, wife. Suddenly hurls herself up to the old man's side and made a firm grab for that arm. Can you find a way to save her inside there? I'm sorry, but only the lady in there can save herself now. No one can interfere when it has come to this. He firmly shakes his head. Of course, if Bai Changfeng knew who was in there, then it's doubtful this old grandpa could remain so calm. Heck, he might just dart in there and make the loudest and biggest commotion of them all. The madam, on the other hand, could feel her body slowly losing strength as she fell backwards. Her eyes could not leave the doorway at all because her heart ached like it's being ripped out and then smashed into mush. Compared with the shock hovering in the air though, Muzhin's heart only had resentment still as usual. Damn it, that little bitch is really refining an 8th grade Dan pill? No matter, with her strength and body, she would surely perish under the force of those lightning strikes. Back inside the bedroom, Bai Yin remains focused on the task at hand, allowing the electrifying bolts of energy to harden and refine her body. The pain was excruciating. Even so, she endures until finally, bang! Among the many strikes coming down, this one was exceptionally huge and made an ear-deafening boom to all those looking. Bai Yin didn't fare so well, letting the trace of blood to seep out of the corner of her mouth. The woman shudders for a good moment before she could even begin to compose herself back together. That's only the second main strike. I still have 7 more to go. Showing a faint smile at her own predicament, the resolve in her voice could not be denied. I will make it through. I've done it before in my last life. I will do it again in this life. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill 6. With each main thunder strike coming down, the intensity of the bolts would increase by 2-fold. So by the time the third one came, it had caused so much damage to Bai Yan's body that she ended slugging right down to the floor as a result of the pressuring force. Fortunately, the woman's a stubborn one. In the last moment before her consciousness caved, she gripped her hands into a ball and stood right back up out of pure perseverance. Again. Boom. Before she could say more, the fourth thunder had come again. Bai Yin didn't care though, nor was she scared. Confronting the bolt of intense heat, her eyes stared intently upwards to take it head on. Poof. This time she literally threw up blood after suffering the hit. Wiping the corner of her mouth, which only caused the red fluid to stain her cheeks, she became rather wary. This is not normal. These thunder strikes are far too strong for an 8th grade alchemic trial. Compared to the ones I experienced in my previous life, it's as strong as the 9th grade ones. What is going on here? The intensity should never be this high. If it continues like so, then my body will disintegrate under that might before it's over. But it's too late to turn back now. Left with no choice, she braves herself for what's to come, and grew more determined than ever after eyeing the patient lying next to her in the bed. I will save you, regardless of the price. I will save this person. Perhaps the man himself had heard her voice, because a droplet of tear had inexplicably trickled down the corner of those eyes. That muttering mouth sounds like it wants to say something, but no sound ever came forth. And by this time Bai Yin was solely focused back to the objective, couldn't see it. Again. Following suit were 3 other intense thunder strikes, each stronger than the last. Afterwards, the complexion on the girl's face could only be called frightening. It's dreadfully white, like blood has left her entirely, causing that face to look like a ghost. I can't give up. If I give up now, then no one can save him anymore. In that second, the 8th bolt had come down as if to meet her demand, causing that whole body to fall to the ground entirely. Despite the insane amount of damage she was suffering, the effects were rather dazzling, like she's covered in a halo, shimmering and glowing. One last one. Struggling to force a smile, she attempts to crawl back up for the final blow. Once I get through this, then it will be over. But lo and behold, the last would always be the most dangerous. Unlike the previous strikes, this thunderbolt was at a whole new level compared to anything she's endured thus far. Success and I will get what I want, failure and I will die, so be it. Closing her eyes, the woman quietly readies her spirit and body for the final clash. Yet, the expected pain never came. Instead, there were only the faint contour of a shadow in front of herself when she opened those eyes again to search for the reason. Why? Why is he here? Why? Why is he fending off the last attack for me? Trembling right into her heart, Bai Yin wanted to reach out to grasp onto the figure for some sort of answer. Unfortunately for the weakened her, the shadowy contour dissipated as soon as those fingers made contact. Deet Song. Covering her mouth, Tears came slipping down those cheeks in accordance with her muffled sobbing. Plat, just then. Bai Yan's ear had caught onto the splitting sound of something inside her storage bag. In a hurry, she immediately pulled out said item, and discovered it was a flower made out of carrot. This was a gift given to her by Deetsong when their son kept nagging to his old man to cook something inside the homely kitchen. Though the dishes themselves didn't turn out so great, downright disgusting, the husband did produce one decent product, and that was this ordinary-looking flower carved using the hands of love. Even after their separation, Bai Yan never had the heart to toss it away. Thankfully, a moment of softness was now paying off in full. If her guesses are right, there should be a wisp of the demon lord's power sealed inside the object. It's this energy that blocked off the thunder strike just now. As to the reason why Bai Yan didn't sense it beforehand, it's likely due to the difference in their strength. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill 7. Bai Yan felt dreadfully weak in the legs. Finding a nicer spot to lie down, her face was now smothered with tears as she grasped tightly onto the token of their bond. There's too much emotions running through her mind, and too much former events of her time with Deetsong replaying itself like a movie. Eventually, the fatigue causes her eyes to close in on itself. Why did it come to this? If he's going to leave behind something to protect me, then why did he send someone to kill me? What exactly happened that day? Slowly, her wariness and doubt propels her consciousness over the edge, and she soon slipped away into an uncertain slumber. Not far away inside a cave of a certain valley, Deetsong was in the middle of meditating to heal his injuries, when he suddenly jerked open his eyes. Grasping at his chest, he leaned in against the rocky wall like he's in massive pain all of a sudden. Wohoo! Bai Xiachen quickly rushes over after noticing the sudden change. Arching his head upwards in order to support his old man, the boy's expression was full of concern. I'm fine, don't worry about me. It's your mother that you should be worried about. She was in danger just now. Rubbing his son's head, Deetsong explains the reasoning, which had the opposite effect of calming the mood down. Don't worry, she's safe. Since the wisp of power he left behind inside the carrot flower has been used, it could only mean his wife remains alive and safe for now. As to why he's so certain, it's because he used could fend off even a celestial rank master. Now this also explains why Deetsong only flew into a rage back when he became informed of his shadow guards pursuing his wife for her life. The fact that the power didn't activate before meant she was never in danger of being killed. Otherwise he would have felt it firsthand. Xiachen, you can see for yourself too. There are too many dangers around your mother right now. You need to tell me where she is so I can go protect her. Like before when he deceived the boy into the demon realm, he's going to use the same tactic to deceive the boy into leading him to his wife. He's the kid's father, so he understands that using force won't work with this rascal. Tilting his head a little, Bai Xiachen appears to be struggling on trying to come to a decision. In the end, he ended shaking his head still, and made a few sobbing cries. You mean you need to go back and ask your mother first? Beaming with light in his eyes, Deetsong asks. The little fox nods vehemently in return. That's right. Only if mother agrees then I can bring you to see her. Okay, you can go find your mother now. Don't worry about me, I'll be fine right here. The man's heart thumped with increasing intensity, leaving his voice hoarse and dry. In the end, despite his suspicion, Bai Xiachen eventually ran out of the cave after looking back a few times. The boy didn't fully trust his old man to do as he says, but the worry for the precious woman of his heart got the better of him. Sure enough, as soon as his presence was out of sight and away from the cave, Deetsong's mouth immediately curved into a radiant smirk. Oh, how low have I fallen? In order to see my wife, I'm now forced to use drastic means just to trick my own blood. Well, at least now I can track his trail and know exactly the places he went from this point forward. In light of that reprimanding tone, the man's expression clearly showed a sense of joy of what's to come. Oh Yin Yen, you will never break free from my arms in this lifetime. I won't let you. Even if I have to search through heaven and earth, I will find you and be together again. Compared to the sly old fox that was Deetsong, the inexperienced little fox that was Bai Xiachen could never outdo his old man. The mere fact that he's left to search for his mother had sold them both out. In the short recess of rest that Bai Yin took after losing consciousness, the woman had not only regained her strength, she's also brimming with energy at having her body refined to a new height. And likewise, the pills inside her cauldron that's placed not far away inside the room was also spewing an incredible smell, indicating its success. The Furious by Chang Feng 1. The patient Yin Feng felt like he's just woken up from a long, long dream. The dream was a beautiful one. The love of his life smiling at him, allowing him to forget the pain of forever separation. Ninger, unconsciously his mouth murmured this name out using his dry hoarse voice. This is not a dream. He waves his hand up to the face in order to cover the blinding light coming through the broken ceiling. In that instant, the patient just froze there in mid-action, because through the small cracks of his fingers, a very familiar and longing contour was now within reach. Ninger, is that really you? Ninga, brimming with a surprised light in her own eyes, Bai Yin stared intently at the man who's looking over. Does he mean my mother? I am not Bai Ning. After a moment of silence, she replied in a clear, crisp voice. You're not Ninga? A look of disappointment promptly filled the patient's face. So Ninger returning to me is still only just a dream. 20 years have passed from when you and Bai Ning separated. Do you think I could be her? Bai Yan's word leaves the already weakened man at a difficult threshold of whether to accept reality or fall into self-deceit. 20 years? So such a long time has passed since then, but you. Realizing something important, Yin Feng promptly swung his head over to Bai Yan's face. If I remember right, Ninga was already pregnant when I left. That's why I came back to tell father I wanted to get married. But who could have guessed? What awaited us would be forever separation. Under the hopeful gaze of the man, Bai Yin eventually came clean. Of course, that's only after her lips quivered so slightly from her own nervousness. Bai Ning is my mother. Boom! Those words were explosive, sending the patient into a stifling state of glee and fear. After a long while, he eventually reached out his big, huge hands in order to caress his daughter's face. However, the other part of his emotions, fear, stopped him mid-track and caused it turn back down. If you're Ninger's daughter, then does that mean you're my child? Trembling in his eyelash, Yin Feng eventually closes his eyes in acceptance. To think my own daughter is already this old after a simple dream. How's your mother? Is she doing well? She must still blame me for leaving without a word. Yin Feng's eyes were mixed with tension, fear, and unease when mentioning the love of his life. He's afraid for the worse, and that the girl's mother would never forgive him. Bai Yan's hand instinctively reached for her own chest at the question. She now understands why her heart would hurt so much when she saw the dreadful state this man was in earlier. Is this called the connection of blood? My mother was seriously in the year I was born. In order to keep me safe, she entrusted my upbringing to others and never appeared again. I do not know if she's alive or not. I do not know if she's alive or not. No, I don't believe this. My wife would never leave me. This can't be happening. In his desperation, the patient wanted to climb out of bed in order to search for the woman. Unfortunately for him, his body was very weak from the many years of being bedridden, causing him to tumble down from the bedside, where Bai Yin had to rush over to catch him. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.